Going to get you some traffic here in just a moment, but first, the breaking news. The judge has dropped the manslaughter charge against Marine veteran Daniel Penny. Right now, we got a crash 40 westbound near Spence Lane, 40 westbound after Fessler's Lane, then 65 northbound near Rosa Parks Boulevard. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. It is The Drive, 7 minutes after 3 o'clock, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm not Brian Wilson. I am Matt Murphy, in for Brian Wilson and The Drive today until 7 o'clock, and I am woefully unprepared. Woefully unprepared because I was spending my transition time having a great conversation with Chad Benson, as opposed to actually getting the preparations for the show going.
Well, I guess we might as well just go home.
Well, I'm up for that. We can take our shot glasses and go home.
Yes, sir.
Is that on the table?
I think the three of us are voting at this stage. I don't know. Maybe the audience would want to vote, too. That's the voice of Ken Weaver. He's in News Closet B. That's the voice of Chris Weber. He's behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as humanly possible. And as I mentioned, my name is Matt Murphy, in for Brian Wilson on The Drive. We've lots to get into, not the least of which I need a Ken Weaver before 7 o'clock tonight.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to need a shot glass count.
Okay.
And by the way, before we get away from it, thank you, Lindsay, for however many shot glasses you gave us. We appreciate you.
Now, do you need them empty when I count them?
That's up to you. If you want to, maybe that's how you count.
I can certainly oblige.
Well, you know what you could do? You could tell me, you could count the shot glasses in terms of number of Coors Lights that will fit in them, right?
4, 7, 13.
I'm going to tell you guys something, and it's kind of like, hey, we told a really cool joke earlier today, and we're not going to be able to tell you the joke, but I have to tell you that Ken Weaver has a tiny, tiny farmer hat that he has clearly stated he will refuse to wear on camera.
Well, that's Bobby Boucher's football trainer hat. Football. that fella talking.
Do you have it back there in News Closet B?
Yeah, I got it.
Are you showing everybody?
Well, here.
Yeah.
Look right there.
There it is. Look at that little thing. Little straw hat.
Little straw hat.
I think you should take a Mason suggestion and tape it to your headphones.
Tape it to the top of the head.
Every time you put it on the headphone, every time you put it on the headphones, you got your little hat on.
That's your news hat.
Pardon me, boys. I have to go put on my news-making hat. I like that.
And start talking like that trainer in Waterboy.
He was so funny.
It's a great movie.
Yep.
We'll have a little fun this afternoon of our own. We've got lots of opportunity for you to get in on the phone line, 615-737-9986. Hope everybody's doing well. Of the three of us, I was the one that went to the company Christmas party. Everybody missed you guys. Well, Brian Wilson went too. Brian and Dawn were there.
Yeah, Brother Brian, yeah. Cabana wife.
Oh, yeah.
Had some nice pictures.
Absolutely. They looked lovely. I was not dressed for the occasion compared to what Brian and Dawn were wearing. That's just, I wasn't.
Oh, yeah, they were gussied up.
No, they looked great. Yeah. I mean, they really did. They looked, he was wearing, what is that? What is that? What the type of, was it plaid?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I would call it, like a red Christmas plaid.
Tartan, maybe.
That's above my pay. Yeah, that sounds good.
That's a word that I just thought up, so maybe it works.
Let's just go with it. Tartan. You say tartan, and I think raw steak. So I don't think
tartar.
That's tartar. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, they look great. I was wearing, so I thought I'd be cute, and I was wearing my Clark Griswold Chicago Blackhawks jersey that's featured prominently in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. The problem is that I got a lot of 20-somethings from down in the sales force that are at the party. None of them understood what the hell I was doing.
They didn't get it at all.
No.
That's not surprising.
But then a lot of Preds fans who work at the station were like, "Why are you wearing a Blackhawks jersey?" And so I would turn around and it says Griswold with a 00 on the back, and okay, I get it. Well, isn't that funny? But it ruins it if you had to explain the joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but a lot of fun. Excellent time had by most. And I would suggest that next year don't try the cheese because I think it's turned on me.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I mean, it was great going down. I don't know.
Coming out, maybe not so much. Huh?
I don't know. It was either the cheese or the Jack Daniels, one of the two that got to me. And then it's my understanding, I have it on good authority, that the Young Bucks from this radio station, from this massive outfit at Cumulus Nashville. Because for those who don't know, we've got us, we got the sports station, we got a couple of country music stations, we got Q92, we got a lot of different stations going on, Titans Radio Network. A lot of these young sales bucks went to the karaoke bar where there was also a mechanical bull.
Oh,
Well,
And I'm not saying that I saw this with my own eyes, but I have it on good authority. Anonymous sources say that several employees rode the mechanical bull.
all right.
And I just need y'all's thought on this. Don't of them were male. And here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Ooh.
I'm not hating on you. Y'all do you, whatever. But I just don't understand. Now, these guys were either with dates, significant others, fiancés, even husband, wife, whatever. I don't understand who you think you're impressing if you're a dude and you're getting on the mechanical bull, right? Like what?
if you're going to get on a real bull,
Okay.
that's one thing.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. But, yeah.
Or even an adequate actual mechanical bull. You know what I mean? Like a simulator, if you will. This is not that. This is to slow roll around the room.
Just spin you in circles.
And urban cowboy Deborah Winger type deal. I don't know. And by the time the third male Cumulus employee got on the mechanical bull, I said to the second one, fellas, what are we doing here? And they're like, oh, you should get on it. And I was like, oh, I don't think so.
I was getting ready to say, they said, oh, it's fun.
I mean,
I'm guessing that the drink tickets had already been turned in at that point.
yeah, I think that's probably had a decent amount to do with it. But you can watch the guy. I see the guy operating the mechanical bull, and that was the most fun because he's like, he goes slow for a minute and is like, watch this. Blah, and there they go.
Knew what he was
He
doing.
knew exactly what he was doing.
He knew exactly.
I just don't understand what you think you're accomplishing on the old mechanical bull if you're a dude, but that maybe is just me. All right, we've got a lot to accomplish today, and we'll get to it. By the way, before we get to anything else, and we've got a lot of folks that are coming on the radio with us. Jack Johnson's going to be here in the 5 o'clock hour. Senate Majority Leader was up in Washington, D.C. earlier this week. We're going to kind of put a final post-mortem on the activities from the United States Supreme Court this week. We'll do that at 5:05. FriJay happens at 4:05 this afternoon. That's my good friend, gambling buddy, life consultant, and legal correspondent, Jay St. Clair. He's a good Tennessee man, and he'll be in to talk to us about all matters legal and answer your legal questions as well at 615-737-9986. Before that, let's do it backwards. At 3:35, Steve Antle. Now, if you listen to me during the noon to 3 hour, I've had Steve on numerous occasions. He is my eyeballs on the ground in North Carolina in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. He's raised a lot of money. He's raised a lot of goods and supplies for the people over there. That suffering is ongoing, and we're going to get an update from Steve Antle, especially considering that J.D. Vance, the vice president-elect, was in Fairview and the surrounding areas earlier today, and we'll find out what J.D. had to say about the situation in Fairview and just get an update from over there. Plus your telephone calls all afternoon long. I love talking with you on the phone, 615-737-9986. Always open phone lines for me as I sit in for Brian Wilson on The Drive. Now, before we get too far away from it, if you have not heard, there was an announcement earlier this week. Obviously, Brian made the announcement a couple of weeks ago, I guess it was, that he was hanging them up. The final destination, as he says, of The Drive will be December 24th. He's still going to be a part of the radio station. He's still got a lot to contribute with the radio station. Brian and I were actually talking about that last night at the party, and I'm very excited about some of his ideas. He's got a mobile unit. I want to do a Wilson on the Road segment akin to what Charles Kuralt used to do.
Ooh, yeah.
But, I mean, because Brian, one, he has the rig. Have you seen the rig that he bought?
Yes.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, not bad.
I mean, it's a Class B motorhome that he can travel the country with, and he'll be doing some of that with Cabana Wife and some without, visiting friends or whatever. And I was like, we've got to do this Wilson on the Road segment. It would be, I mean, I think it'd be cool. But his final full-time day will be December 24th. And the question was, who will be a part of the drive in the aftermath of that? And it was announced earlier this week that I have the honor and privilege of moving forward an afternoon drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And I mean that. It is an absolute honor to sit in a seat where Brian Wilson has sat for the last 3 years, where Phil Valentine was for so many years before that. It is a privilege, it's an honor, and it is a responsibility that I take very seriously. I know that I can be gruff and abrasive at times. I have a different approach. We all do, and I think that's the blessing of this radio station, that if you go from Dan Mandis to Brian Wilson to Chris Hand to Matt Murphy to Chad Benson, whoever you go to, we're going to have a slightly different take on what's going on in the news, maybe a slightly different opinion than you, maybe the same opinion of you as you. So bottom line is this. I'm going to try to do honor to this time slot where greats have come before me, and I will try to entertain and inform you on a daily basis starting on January 2nd. That's the official launch date on January the 2nd. Ken Weaver was a linchpin in all of this, because if Ken Weaver had not agreed to put up with me for an extra hour, I don't know that it would have happened. But he did agree to do that.
I think it was the shot glasses that put him over the top.
Probably so.
It's this little bitty old hat.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about the hat.
I'm going to tape it to Fritz tonight.
Every time you say something about the hat, there's a joke that pops up in my head that the other side of my brain says, "You don't tell that joke,
Don't
or
do that.
You won't be doing the drive January 2nd. I promise you that." So.
Don't do it.
No. But it's a cute little hat.
It is.
Speaking of hats, you got quite the hat on today.
Oh, how about that? You like this?
I really like
this. This is my new hat.
What's it say?
It says, "To hell I won't." I'm wearing a hat. If you're watching on Super Talk TV, you can see it right there, loud and proud. I saw this hat online, and I was like, it called to me.
It screams your name.
I mean, I feel like it called my name. So, yes, my hat, it's a little trucker variety. It's got a patch on the front of it, and the patch says, "To hell I won't."
Actually, it says "the hell I won't."
Oh, it says "the hell I won't." Yeah. Well, that's
Close
even
enough.
that's better.
It works either way.
Yeah, well, to hell I won't. So that's my hat. And you can watch that on Super Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. You can watch us there. You can stream us anywhere you go on our streaming platforms. Download our app. And you can also, obviously, listen to us on 99.7 FM. Lots to get into. There are updates on the Daniel Penny trial. I do not, for the life of me, understand why this is such a controversial decision. But apparently, in New York City, it is. You know what they ought to do? For those holdouts that don't recognize the dangers that subway riders encounter on a daily basis, I think that the jury, and I know that there have been some recent developments, and we'll get into some of those in just a moment. I believe the jury should have to finish up their deliberations actually on the subway. Like, get them out of the courtroom, take them on down to the subway, sit them on the subway, and have them deliberate down there while people are down the way peeing on the subway. Have y'all seen this story?
Goodness.
If you want to know, I mean, I've been on the subway system in New York, and I was on it in the aftermath of Rudy Giuliani. And Rudy Giuliani, say what you will about the waning years of his political career or political life, he cleaned up New York, man. I mean, he took Times Square and cleaned it up. He believed that you arrest them for the little things so they don't go on to do the big things, and that type of policing works. He believed in stop and frisk. He believed in these type. And I understand that some civil libertarians get a little itchy over some of the methods that Rudy Giuliani utilized, but you cannot deny his results. He got results. Well, sadly, liberal Democrats, and no, I don't necessarily include Michael Bloomberg in that number, although he was not nearly as tough on criminal activity as Rudy Giuliani was. But sadly, the liberal Democrats, who was it? De Blasio? De Blasio. And then now this Eric Adams, sadly, who comes from a police background and can't seem to get a handle on it, wants to now, he claims. I mean, we're just watching New York slowly but surely slide back into the malaise and the crime and the nastiness and the dirt and the grime of late 1970s, early 1980s New York City. When I was a young kid, New York City was not a place that you wanted to go. For a minute there, they cleaned it up to the point that it became something of a tourist destination. Again, and I understand that it's still a tourist destination, don't get me wrong. Well, the city transit system is said to pee away billions of dollars over fare evasion while still tolerating such quality of life outrages as, well, open urination on trains. According to Representative Richie Torres, a Democrat from New York City, he tweeted a video showing just how much subway conditions have gone downhill, literally into the toilet, with a rider caught brazenly unsheathing himself. He took off his little farmer's cap and urinated in the train.
Goodness.
I want to make a joke about it, but this is just sad. It's sad that we're allowing these types of people with, there's a lot of things to say about this. We'll unpack it in just a moment. How in the world a jury of his peers cannot see that Daniel Penny was doing his best to protect the individual riders on that subway train is beyond me. But we'll give you the latest on that. We're going to talk about healthcare in America. We're going to talk to Steve Antle over in Fairview, North Carolina, about how the aftermath of Hurricane Helene's going. It's all on the way on the drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
All right, we got new developments in the search for the United Healthcare CEO's murder suspect. Also, Marine veteran Daniel Penny. The judge has dropped the second-degree manslaughter charge, but it's not over yet. We'll tell you about it at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. 27 after the hour right now. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. A lot of reaction and response to Ken's hat and my hat on the Super Text line.
Yeah.
Get in there. 615-737-9986. It's the hell I won't. Why was I saying to hell I won't? That doesn't make any sense.
That sounded fine to me.
It's kind of slanging it a little bit.
Yeah, maybe so. The hell I won't. The hell I won't is what my hat says. And someone said that that was an old line from John Wayne movie. Said, great movie quote from the Duke. The hell I won't, just before starting a huge brawl in a mud pit. McClintock. My favorite John Wayne quote was from
Cowboys.
Oh no, Cowboys was. I mean, there's a lot of good ones. Whew. Big Jake was always my favorite. I don't know if you remember Big Jake.
Yeah.
Well, Big Jake. His grandson gets kidnapped, and he has to get his two boys. He's kind of estranged from the family. He has to come back in and get his two sons, and they have to go find his grandson. Mm-hmm. And one of his sons is not happy with him, so he keeps calling him Daddy. Hello, Daddy. Hello, Daddy.
Yeah, I remember that.
And finally, John Wayne gets tired of it and walks over to him and slugs him off his horse and says, I think it's it. You can call me Father. You can call me Jacob. You can call me Jake. You can call me you dirty son of a bleep. But if you ever call me Daddy again, I'm finishing this fight. It's a great line.
Okay.
Don't call John Wayne Daddy. The Daniel Penny trial. So, Ken, am I understanding this correctly that the judge in the case dismissed the manslaughter charge, which was the higher charge?
That's the one that he risked going to prison for about 15 years on.
So, and he has dismissed the manslaughter charge against Penny after jurors said that they were deadlocked on it. The decision, which came at the request of prosecutors, means jurors will consider only the lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide, which carries a maximum sentence of up to 4 years. Jurors, according to NBC News, jurors were not told that prosecutors made the request. I don't know if that matters or not. This potentially increases the likelihood that they will charge him with criminally negligent homicide. I'll say this before we go to news. I do, and I don't know where you are on it. Watching the video, understanding the nature of the threat that Jordan Neely presented to the people on that train. He was literally telling people that they were going to die that day. Given the skill set of Daniel Penny, I do not believe that Daniel Penny did anything wrong other than to protect the individuals on that train. He did not intend to kill Jordan Neely. Sadly, Jordan Neely had drugs in his system, etc., and ultimately he succumbed to the chokehold that Daniel Penny put on him. It's a sad situation, but it's a sad situation perpetuated by the city of New York, by a lack of mental health opportunity and options for individuals like Jordan Neely, because this guy was obviously off his nut and on drugs. I do not want to live in a world, I do not want to live in a United States of America where George Floyd is hailed as a conquering hero and Daniel Penny goes to jail for 4 years. Do you? Things seem a little upside down there. We'll discuss next. 615-737-9986. It's The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN 330.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And right now in New York City, police are giving an update on the whereabouts of the United Healthcare CEO's killer. They are quoted as saying in about the past half hour, they think the suspect hopped a bus out of New York City after the shooting. And Marine veteran Daniel Penny. Update, the judge tossing the top charge of second-degree manslaughter in the death of Jordan Neely. Jurors said they were deadlocked. The judge said he will encourage the jury to continue deliberating on Monday the lesser charge of whether Penny committed criminally negligent homicide in the death of Neely, a homeless man on the New York City subway last year, who the defense says was high and having a psychotic episode and threatening people. TikTok loses again. Stephen Portnoy says a D.C.-based federal appeals court's upholding the law requiring a sale of the extremely popular video sharing app.
Having now failed to convince a panel of federal appeals court judges that it should remain in the hands of China-based ByteDance, TikTok says it will look to the Supreme Court. The big question is where President-elect Trump now stands. In his first term, Trump called for a ban on TikTok, and his incoming FCC chair has long advocated for that. But in this last campaign, Trump suggested he would save the app. The law upheld by the appeals court requires a sale by January 19th, allowing for a one-time presidential waiver based on active steps to divest.
Another court battle today. A federal district judge in Maryland rejecting a group's effort to remove affirmative action race consideration in order to get into the military academies. The judge saying that's a matter left up to the military and the president in the interest of national security. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Got a crash Harding Pike near Woodmont Boulevard. Then a stalled vehicle, 65 northbound after Rosa Parks Boulevard. That is blocking the right shoulder. 40 eastbound on-ramp from Charlotte Pike. The on-ramp is partially blocked there by a crash. Traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. By the way, it's my episode 708. 708 of these visits with you on this Friday, December 6th. It is also Locks for Trump Day 279, and boy, oh boy, I cannot wait for the inauguration. The time has come. It's getting a little tiresome, I will admit.
Wow, that didn't take long.
Well, it's one of those deals where I can't actually put it up in a ponytail, and when I do put it up in a ponytail, it makes my gourd look even larger than it already is. And you had long, you know how it goes.
Oh, yeah.
It goes, and then it starts getting in your mouth when you're sleeping, and it's just,
I don't think I ever had that problem.
No? It's no good. It's no good. One way or the other, we'll figure it out. Locks for Trump Day 279. 279 days ago, I said, I'm voting for Donald Trump. Not only that, I'm putting my hair on the line for him, and there you go. All right, we want to shift our attention over to Hurricane Helene and the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. Obviously, a lot of conversation in the midst of that going on, and we had great conversations with our next guest over the subsequent weeks and even months. And now we wanted an update, and it's my understanding that there was somebody touring the area in which Steve Antle has been working so hard, so diligently trying to help folks out. Steve Antle joins us back on the show from Fairview, North Carolina, where he has been obviously working toward a life of some sort of normalcy. Steve, I hope everything's going well for you. How are you, friend?
I'm doing good, Matt. Congratulations on moving to the drive time. I think that's going to be a great thing.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of responsibility, and big shoes that I cannot possibly fill. But I appreciate that. You're very kind to say so.
Yes, sir.
Give us kind of a 50,000-foot view, a lay of the land. How are things going over there?
Well, we are really settling in, and I've used this term before, the new normal. But there's still just so much devastation everywhere I go. I deliver for work, and I'm also out and about still doing volunteer work, and everywhere I go, there's still overturned vehicles, there's crushed houses, there's still power lines down. They've got the roads open, but there's still wide swaths of town, both in Asheville, in Fairview, and in Swannanoa, that are just still devastated. And a lot of the cleanup is being delayed by things like insurance claims and FEMA claims and people coming in and they're having to decide, are we going to rebuild? Are we going to tear down? Can we rebuild? What can we rebuild? They're also redesigning the floodplains and mudslide zones in the area. So a lot of stuff is just on hold. So it's kind of like frozen in time. And so you're always reminded, everywhere I go, I'm always reminded of what happened.
I want to confirm or dispel some of the stuff that I'm seeing online, because you know how it goes, Steve. You don't know, in the aftermath, we heard about, 18 refrigerated trucks full of bodies, and that never came, that wasn't true. But so I just want to get some eyeballs on the ground on some of this stuff. Is it true that people are still intense?
There are people intense, but I do want to say this. A lot of the people that are intense are people that they don't want to leave their property. People here are very adamant about wanting to stay with their property, with their destroyed home, with their, they just have that attachment to it. Mm-hmm. And some of them can't utilize tiny homes or can't utilize campers because of their property or because of lack of hookups and things like that. And so they've chosen, some of them have chosen to stay in the tents. If it gets really, really cold, they have alternate places to go. But yes, we do have, there's a tent city down in Swannanoa. I call it a tent city just because that whole neighborhood got wiped out. And so there's just property after property after property, and they have their little tents set up. Some of them have campers set up. So, yes, we do have people in tents. No, it's not always just because they can't. Sometimes it's because they won't do alternate.
Well, yeah, and that's the obvious follow-up. Is that a choice that these folks are making for the most part with regard to their decision to stay on the property as opposed to going somewhere else?
I think that it's probably 70% that, okay, and probably 30% that they are in need and haven't gotten it yet. And that's one of the things that I do. I've connected with a organization called Emergency RV, And what we do is I'm not technically a part of them, but I assist them in lining stuff up. And they round up donated RVs, and then we transport them here to Western North Carolina, and then we distribute them to people that need them. And we've also got, I've got 8 people that I know of that are providing tiny homes. We've got a family up in Ohio that's building several custom tiny homes that are going to be coming down here sometime before Christmas, and so those will be, going to specific people. So we're working on the housing slowly.
Have you heard any truth to the rumor, Steve, that we were told, and Mike H. has written in and is asking this question, that any truth to the story that the government shut down the tiny homes for homeless storm victims because the homes weren't up to code? Have you heard anything about that? Okay.
No.
That's good.
I've been asked that repeatedly, and I have not seen that anywhere in the area where I'm at. Anyone that gets a tiny home, and especially anyone that gets one through us, we haven't had any kind of issues with that.
What has from a local perspective, a state perspective, and I want to get to the visit that happened today in just a moment, but from a local and state perspective, how would you rate the long-term response? And then talk to us a little bit about FEMA. Is there still a FEMA presence, or has that kind of gone away? Just give us kind of a sense of that.
There's still FEMA around. They have different places that they're set up at, and sometimes they'll move those places to different locations to make it easier for people to get to. I would give the long-term response probably a 6 out of 10 right now. And that's only because there's just so much bureaucracy involved in everything, state, local, and federal. One of the things that we've still been challenged with and has been an issue is getting these tiny bridges rebuilt so people can get to their properties. That's a huge headache of mine that I've been having to navigate. And still, 2 months later, we still can't seem to get resolution on a lot of those. I do want to talk about a couple of positive things, though. Our community has really come together as a group of people. Like, we all knew each other in some way, shape, or form before the storm. I mean, everybody's, we live in a rural community and everybody's related or knows everybody. But after the storm and all through all this process, everybody has really pulled together. And there's a lot of events that are happening that have never happened before. We're going to have a Christmas parade in Fairview. We've never had a Christmas parade in Fairview. They're having several Christmas events. I've got police officers with Cops for Kids coming from Mobile, Alabama, with toys that they've collected and bicycles and donations, and they're going to be here to ride in the parade and distribute those at the after party at our local community center / school. So, we've just become tighter, I guess is a good word to say. So today, this is so funny. So yesterday evening, 2 Secret Service agents showed up in plain clothes, and I mean like normal clothes, not suits. They showed up out at Fairview Volunteer Fire Department, and they said, Vice President-elect Vance is going to come here tomorrow. And nobody knew anything. Like, I don't know how it came about. It had to have been on his end. Like, he had to have just decided, we're going to do this. And so very quickly everything got thrown together, and then he arrived this morning at 11 a.m. I managed to be sitting out in traffic near the airport and got some pictures of the jet coming in. Of course, it stalled traffic up pretty bad in Asheville, but I think it was a good thing that he came. His primary focus of the visit, his only focus of the visit, he came to Fairview specifically, to our community. He went to our volunteer fire department. He met with all of our first responders. He also met with all of the family members of people that lost family members in the storms. He had a briefing from both the family members and from the first responders. He went out and toured Craigtown. He went out and toured Guerin Creek. He went out and toured Flat Creek. He looked at the devastation. He climbed up in houses that were destroyed. So his focus was just, I think his focus was he wanted to let them know that the incoming administration was really going to be there to continue the support, and that they hadn't been forgotten about since the election.
Let's listen together, Steve, real quick to some of the comments that J.D. Vance made before some assembled media on the ground in Fairview, North Carolina today.
We want people in this area to see change under your administration that starts in January.
Well, I think, one, hopefully it doesn't take 45 days for this to happen. But as I mentioned earlier, Tom and Ted have explicitly asked the Biden administration to grant the FEMA waiver that would allow mobile homes to come back to this area, that would actually give people some short and maybe some medium-term housing. I mean, Tom and Ted are welcome to talk about that if they want to say more. I hope it doesn't take 45 days, but if, God forbid, it takes 45 days, that's something that is going to change immediately under President Trump's leadership. Think about it. The argument here is that you can't allow people to put mobile homes in a floodplain, in an area that has the risk of flood damage. Well, that's pretty much this entire area, an area of the state of Massachusetts. If you don't grant a waiver, you're effectively telling people they've got to move hundreds of miles away and do it 2 weeks before Christmas. It's ridiculous, it's atrocious, and we need a government that responds quickly to the needs of its citizens. So much of the frustration at FEMA, at everybody else, it's not malice. I don't believe that the officials of the Biden administration are intentionally doing bad things, but it's bureaucratic red tape, it's slowness, it's a bureaucracy that is moving at the speed of a glacier when what you need is people to respond to the concerns of the people of Western North Carolina.
I think you said it exactly right, Steve. What's your response to, I don't know how much of that you could hear, but I mean, you know, he's exactly, yeah, he's exactly right when it comes. I mean, I don't think that most of the people that work for FEMA on the ground are bad people. I just think they're working with a bureaucracy that is not equipped to act at the speed that the people need.
Well, and I'll go back to what I said earlier about the reasons for why the devastation and all of these things are still sitting out here on the sides of the road and so forth, is because of that bureaucracy that he's talking about. And, you know, I don't know all the ins and outs of why that is. Obviously, he would have more information on that. But there's obviously a tie-up somewhere, because the stuff just keeps staying the same. Nothing is being worked on. Like, you know, there's huge areas that are just, like, frozen in time. And I know that it's because of bureaucratic issues. I don't know exactly where that's at, but I couldn't agree more with what he said.
What can we do for you and the area?
You know, it's just like I keep saying, it's going to be a long term. This is going to be a years long process. I still wake up from day to day, every other day, every 2 days. I wake up, I get donations that just show up randomly. I did a Newsmax interview, I guess, a month ago with Tom Basile, and I started getting people contacting me from that. Just they were like researching, trying to find how to get a hold of me. So just keep putting the word out. This isn't over. It's going to be ongoing. We can continue to need your help. Everything that comes to me gets put directly into Fairview. I know Samaritan's Purse is still on the ground here and doing a lot of good work. I saw a picture where they were with JD today.
Mm-hmm. I think he visited with Samaritan's Purse. I've seen that video as well. I'm sorry to cut it short, but I've got to, Steve. I apologize for doing so. God bless every bit of work you're doing over there. If there's anything we need to know in Middle Tennessee, you let us know, okay?
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it.
Thank you. There's Steve Ansel on the ground in Fairview, North Carolina, where J.D. Vance made an appearance, Vice President-elect Vance, more than Vice President Harris has ever done for that region. It's 53 after the hour on Super Talk.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
This is Brian Wilson with your market report. The Dow was down 123 points today, but a record day on the S&P, up 15. NASDAQ also in the green by 159 points. What's driving all this market activity? Let's check in with John Maxon over at Beacon Capital Management. Good afternoon, John.
Yeah, you're right, Brian. Kind of a crazy week and a mixed day on the market. But I'll tell you, we had a couple of records. The Dow's down today, and really the big thing was the boost in the belief that the Fed was going to decrease interest rates based on the jobs report. There's been a lot of things leading up to that. And of course, last month, the jobs report only created 12,000 jobs. That was a huge concern for the market. Today, it rebounded 227,000 jobs against an expectation of 215,000. So the market really liked that. And now that they're pricing in, the market is an almost 90% odd that on the 18th of this month, the Fed's going to lower rates. Of course, that's going to make capital cheaper, and the market likes that. So we'll see how that plays out for growth moving forward, but the market actually liked that even though it was a flat day today. So pretty big day in the market.
Thanks, John. And to find out what John Maxon and all the other good people at Beacon Capital Management can do to help you get ready for your retirement, just go to their website, askbeaconnow.com.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And right now, the suspect in the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson is believed to have left New York City. Investigators believe the suspect left the city at some point following the shooting. He had arrived in New York City by bus from Atlanta days before the killing. And the judge in Marine veteran Daniel Penny's chokehold case has tossed the manslaughter charge because the jury was deadlocked. The judge told the jury to return on Monday to deliberate the lesser charge of negligent criminal homicide in the death of Jordan Neely. Neely, the defense claims, was high and having a psychotic episode and threatening people on the New York City subway last year when he died after being put in that chokehold. And a D.C.-based federal appeals court has upheld the law requiring TikTok's parent company to sell the app or be banned in the U.S. Here's Stephen Portnoy.
The D.C. Circuit Appeals Court flatly rejects the argument made by China-based ByteDance, instead deferring to the fears expressed by the White House and Congress of China's extensive efforts to gather Americans' data. The court says China has, quote, positioned itself to manipulate public discourse on TikTok in order to serve its own ends. If ByteDance doesn't take steps to sell the app by January 19th, the court says under the law, TikTok will be effectively unavailable in the U.S.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, South Nashville got a crash, 40 westbound right before Fessler's Lane. And then in Williamson County, Spring Hill, 65 southbound at I-840. Police working a crash there at exit 59. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is The Drive. No Brian Wilson today. Matt Murphy in for Brian on this Friday edition, December 6, 2024. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good afternoon thus far. A little cool outside tonight. It should be. Middle of December, after all. About 8 after 4 right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We'll be getting to Jay St. Clair, our FriJay segment, coming up in just a moment on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So real quick, I want to update you on what's happening in New York City. A lot of attention with the Daniel Penny case. A lot of attention in New York, generally speaking, considering this the death of Daniel Thompson, the healthcare CEO, United Healthcare CEO, Wednesday morning. Still, the assailant has not been found. It is now believed there's a lot of different evidence that they have. They've got, video evidence of the suspect riding an e-bike, video evidence of him entering the park. They've got a cell phone, a burner phone that apparently he dropped after shooting Thompson on the street outside of the Hilton Hotel. They've got a number of different photographs of him. He used a fake identification to get into a hostel where he stayed. Apparently, he took a bus trip from Atlanta to New York and was aware of the movements of the United Healthcare CEO before apparently killing him in cold blood. All of that to say, the New York City Police Department saying that it's processing a tremendous, quote unquote, their words, tremendous amount of evidence in the case, and they believe that they will have the assailant in custody at some point down the road. But who knows when that will be, considering that now they believe that he has left Manhattan or left New York City generally on a bus somewhere. That is the latest that I saw this afternoon. In the meantime, jurors in the Daniel Penny chokehold trial resumed to deliberations for a fourth day earlier. For just about an hour before telling the court they could not come to an agreement on the top charge, which was manslaughter. They are weighing the fate, obviously, of the 26-year-old Marine veteran who is accused of killing a mentally ill homeless man who was threatening to kill people on a Manhattan subway car. Around 11 o'clock in the morning, jurors sent a note to the court saying, quote, "We, the jury, request instructions from Judge Wiley. At this time, we are unable to come to a unanimous vote on count 1, manslaughter in the second degree." The judge sent them back to deliberate a little bit more. The court was told at about 3 o'clock that they still could not reach a unanimous decision. The judge then offered them the Allen charge, as it's called. Now, I should note that the charge requires prosecutors, the manslaughter charge requires prosecutors to prove that Penny acted, I'm quoting here, with recklessness when he grabbed Jordan Neely in a chokehold. The judge initially ruled the jury could not deliberate on the second charge unless they found Penny not guilty of manslaughter by some reason other than the chokehold was justified. However, after jurors said they were deadlocked a second time, Assistant Manhattan District Attorney Daphna Yoren asked the judge in the case to have the top charge of manslaughter dismissed in the case, to then allow the jury to debate the lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide, which carries a maximum sentence of about 4 years. I do not believe that Daniel Penny should be charged with anything. If I were on the jury, if anything, it would be hung. That said, to make sense of all of this, to talk with us about what went down at the United States Supreme Court earlier today, and to answer your legal questions, we welcome our great friend, Tennessee man, my life consultant, gambling buddy, and our legal correspondent. It's time for FriJay. Indeed. Here he comes, Jay St. Clair, joining us this afternoon on the Matt Murphy Hotline at 11 minutes after 4 o'clock. Jay St. Clair, good afternoon. I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
You know, Matt, I know it's about afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
The only way I believe I could be any better is if I had just gotten promoted to the evening drive slot on the best radio station in the great state of Tennessee.
Well, that's very kind. You're very kind. Well, I appreciate that. No, it's going to be great. We're going to have a good time. As long as I keep you right here at 4 o'clock in the afternoons on these FriJays, everything's going to be just fine. As a matter of fact,
I get a raise?
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. We're in the afternoons now, man. we're going to, whatever we're paying you right now, we're going to double it. How about that?
Yeah, that's worked out pretty good for you.
For the last 20 years, I keep doubling your salary. Oh, well, no, it's funny, Jay, and this is a compliment to you. I mean, people love listening to you. I mean, obviously, you have such knowledge when it comes to our legal system, but folks love you, and I just like I do, and one of the questions that I got asked after we made the announcement, is Jay coming? Is Jay coming? Is Jay going to be there? I said, yeah. Don't worry about it. I'll make him if he doesn't even want to.
Hey, number one guy rule, Matt, don't ever leave your wingman.
Don't leave your wingman. That's right.
Never do it.
Never do it. And don't walk away from a hot craps table. But that's basically number one. That's basically rule number one.
And always shoot dice on my right.
That's exactly. Let me tell you.
It took me a few years to figure that out.
It took me a couple of years to figure that out, because after Jay goes on a heater with the dice, once he craps out or once he rolls the 7, he's got to go have him a cancer stick. And so so if you're on his left and the dice get passed to you, he's not going to be there. So I learned to stand on his right, and then you have more fun that way. Jay, I want to start. I mean, I would have sworn I would have started with the SCOTUS case, but I want to start out in New York City, this Daniel Penny case. So is this typical, the way this is going down in criminal cases, to your knowledge, that so they wanted to get him on the manslaughter charge, and there was a second charge of criminally negligent homicide.
Right.
And apparently the judge in the case said, you can't consider the criminally negligent homicide till you figure out the manslaughter thing. Am I reading this right?
Yeah, that's a little odd. It's a little different state to state, but you're right, and it's not that unusual, Matt. It's not unusual at all, really, the crimes. It's called lesser included offenses.
Mm-hmm.
And so think about it this way. I was trying to think of a really good analogy. Let's say that somebody is out in their backyard shooting target practice, and they don't have any idea that people are in the next lot behind some trees, and they shoot somebody and kill them, and they get arrested. Well, that was negligent, probably. And their negligence means reasonable person. They should have, before shooting off into territory, you ought to go look and make sure there's nobody around.
Mm-hmm.
That's negligence. Let's change the facts a little. Same facts. But they're out there shooting in their backyard, and then somebody says, hey, Matt, well, hang on, they're having a party over there. There's a bunch of people over there.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, I don't care. It'll be fine. And then you keep shooting, and then you kill somebody. Well, that's different. Now you had knowledge there were people there.
Right.
And that's reckless. See, the first is negligent. It's just you weren't being reasonable. The second one is you're being reckless. You know there's people over there in the line of fire, and you just keep on shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, it's very common, particularly in murder or homicides, where the facts aren't always perfectly known. So you charge different levels of state of mind. What you would call it mens rea, because you always like to throw out these Latin terms. But I like to just keep it where
you like to keep it simple. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to keep it where Tennessee graduates can understand it.
Uh-huh.
And so you have different states of mind. I might kill somebody, but it's the last thing in the world I want to have happen. And I was going to be, you hit a pedestrian at night on the side of the interstate. Well, you couldn't see them. And so you really aren't liable for that at all. You were acting reasonably. But, yeah, so there's different levels of state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's very common when there is a homicide and there's a criminal case that you charge the different levels of state of mind. And so here this jury could not reach a conclusion that he acted recklessly. Meaning that, he should have known that what he was doing was going to kill the guy.
Right.
So now that's out, and now they go to looking at negligence. But I tell you, there's another issue here, and that is, did his interaction with the decedent, the dead guy, is that really what killed him?
I know.
And that's an open question, Matt, because when the first responders got there, I believe he was still alive.
Well, he was still, he still had a pulse, and he had a lot of drugs in his system as well. So right. There are some questions about whether or not that contributed to the death of Jordan Neely. So right. if a judge, so this is a manner, I mean, the judge wants them to decide on the manslaughter, and he doesn't allow them to consider the secondary charge.
Yeah, that's a little odd there, and there's a lot of gamesmanship that goes on here. It's just odd, the coincidence that happened in life, man.
Mm-hmm.
Just before you the Court of Appeals, about issues very similar to this.
Really?
Yeah, and there's gamesmanship because, see, if you're the prosecutor and you really want to get the guy for manslaughter, then you don't want to charge him with the negligence because that gives the jury the opportunity to reach a compromise verdict.
Right.
And if you're the defense, you probably want that negligence charge there. So I think the reason the judge said, well, you can't even consider negligence until you decide on reckless. That he was trying to get the guy on reckless. He was trying to keep the jury from reaching a compromise verdict.
So
maybe half the people bleeded reckless and half of them didn't, and so okay, well, we'll just compromise and do. But because the fact that he gave him an Allen charge tells me that he was really giving the prosecution every opportunity they could get to get him on the higher charge,
right?
The more serious charge.
And so the prosecution, in requesting that they dismiss the manslaughter charge this afternoon, it's pretty obvious to them at this stage that they're not going to get him on. That the jury's hopelessly deadlocked there.
Yeah, that's right. They've thrown in the towel on that one. That's right.
And so now, the question is whether the jury will remain deadlocked on the criminally negligent charge or if they can come to a conclusion on the lesser charge.
Well, that's right. They're not going to acquit him on that. If they were going to acquit him on that, they would have
acquitted him on everything.
Exactly. So, yeah, there's really at this point only two outcomes. He gets convicted on the negligence charge or there's another hung jury. And I'll answer a question you haven't asked. My experience in spidey senses tells me that there'll be a hung jury on that charge too.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there's at least one person on that jury that doesn't think this guy would be convicted of anything for this.
I get the feeling that that's the case too. I mean, I don't know if it's one or if it's two or whatever, but that was where my guts were too. Yeah.
Yep. Only need one.
Well, that's true, and here's the thing. And a lot of people are bringing this up that these are state charges, though, right?
Yes, sir.
So Donald Trump, a lot of people are saying, well, when Donald Trump gets into office, he'll pardon Daniel Neely. Well, he can't.
Can't do it. No.
Yeah, because these are in fact state charges. Now,
that's right. His pardon power is only for federal crimes.
Jay, in a moment when we come back, we will ask you a question that many of us have been discussing over the course of the week. Your thoughts on the Supreme Court of the United States deciding on these transgender issues. You can also get your questions in for FriJay. 615-737-9986, either via phone or on the super text line. Good opportunity for you to ask legal questions of a great legal mind. Our man, Jay St. Clair. It's 421 on Super Talk.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
I do everything from scrubbing cages to asking people for donations to answering the phones and helping facilitate getting animals to the rehab. I'm there on the weekends, up there taking care of animals with the team.
You got a great team there. It's a small team, but a great team that works together. And
Well, I started about 20 years ago. My dear friend Carol Burgess founded Harmony in Fairview.
Okay.
And we decided to reopen it in West Nashville. And we are rocking along. Lots of animals. One of the primary calls that we get are, I found a bird, it's on the ground, what do I do? And in most situations, you should let it alone unless there's an imminent danger to that animal, because the parents are helping it and feeding it, and it just needs a couple of scary days on the ground until it gets back up into flight. What about bunnies, Melody? Can we give advice about bunnies?
The bunnies, they're just the sweetest, most innocent creatures, and we just see the worst things happen to them. Cats, dogs, lawnmowers, weed whackers.
In most cases, if the animals aren't injured, if you can put the rabbits back, that's always better to be with the mother rabbit than to come to us.
All the storms that have been coming through and just destroying nests, and a lot of babies will be found on the ground. Re-nesting is possible and preferable.
You play the video calls and you put the baby near where they found it, and the mama will actually come down and pick it up and then bring it back.
Oh, nice.
Isn't that cool?
Nice.
New York City police think the suspect in the United Healthcare CEO's murder is no longer in the city. The judge in the Daniel Penny case has tossed the manslaughter charge. And Metro Police say a second twin has been arrested for the murder of Antioch restaurant owner Harong Ju on November 24th. These stories and more coming up at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Ken Weaver. It is 26 after the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. FriJay's in progress on the drive. Our man Jay St. Clair with us, answering your legal questions, 615-737-9986, and several of them are already coming in. Jay, any thoughts on the, you're the only guy that I know. Well, I can't say that anymore because I talked to Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti yesterday. So you're one of two guys that I know that have argued cases before the United States Supreme Court. I just am curious about your thoughts on what we should or should not extrapolate from the types of questions being asked at the court. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that feel really good about the Tennessee law, but you better watch yourself because sometimes those justices can run some trickery on you.
Well, I can tell you exactly what conclusions you can draw from the questions asked or statements made by the judges at oral argument. I can tell you exactly the conclusions you can draw, man.
Mm-hmm. And that is?
None. Zero. I walked out of there and said, well, we got Ginsburg in my case, and she wrote a scathing dissent and read it from the bench, which is most unusual. I've read some stuff about it. They play games in oral argument, and so I just don't think you can draw any conclusions from that. It's an interesting case, and it boils down, there's a bunch of legal stuff about what standards should apply. Is being transsexual or trans, is that an immutable characteristic, unchangeable? If so, then there's a different legal standard that applies. But it really comes down to the science, doesn't it, Matt? The medical science. Are these treatments dangerous or not? And it sounds like there is actually literature on both sides of it. There's some science that says that they are beneficial. It's like I just thought of this. It's kind of like an aspirin, man. There's risk with everything.
Right.
And so taking that, one of the justices said...
Ketanji Brown Jackson said that. She said that about aspirin.
Well, it's just like taking an aspirin.
Yeah.
And so there's science on both sides of it. So my spidey instincts tell me that given that and the composition of the court, they're going to say, well, look, this could go either way. Reasonable minds can disagree. So therefore, this should not be decided as a constitutional issue. This is for the legislative branch of government. So we're going to not interfere with what the Tennessee legislature did.
I especially love it when the courts do something like that because it takes big people to say, look, I think Antonin Scalia, if I'm not mistaken, was one of the guys that would say this often, that why in the world would you want 9 people in robes in Washington D.C. making this decision when you have state legislatures that you elect that are very well capable of making a decision for the populations affected?
No, it's funny you say that because I was just about to say that, it's what Justice Scalia said about same-sex marriage.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't be getting into this because the legislative branch, they're already figuring it out. And that's where this decision should be made, right? Because it was, public attitude toward that changed incredibly in like a 10-year period.
Right.
And so lots of states were making same-sex marriage legal. And so Scalia said, we don't need to get involved in that. It'll be much more legitimate if it's done by the states. And, so I think that's the thought that's going to prevail here. And so if you made me bet on an outcome, I hate to do that, but I would predict that the Tennessee law will be upheld.
Jay, in a moment, I'm going to address one of our favorite subjects. I'm going to ask you 2 questions. 1, have you ever sent a cease letter? Number 2, have you ever sent a desist letter? Jay's going to give us the answer, and because there is someone sent. Now, I know the answer to whether you've ever sent a cease and desist letter or received one. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. And it involves an interesting story out of Cheatham County. Cheatham High School, or Cheatham Middle School, I should say, has now received a cease and desist letter from the University of Cincinnati, threatening to sue the school over a mascot. We'll talk to Jay about that, plus your calls coming up. It's 4:30 on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Right now, New York City police think the suspect in the United Healthcare CEO's murder is no longer in the city. They think he hopped a bus after the shooting. The judge in the Daniel Penny case tossing the manslaughter charge in the chokehold death of a mentally ill homeless man, threatening people on a subway, but prosecutors still want to try to get the Marine veteran on negligent homicide, which carries a 4-year prison sentence. Right now in Nashville, Metro Police say the second twin has been arrested for the murder of Antioch restaurant owner Harang Zhu on November 24th. 17-year-old Emilio Leyva Hernandez was the passenger in a vehicle that was stopped by detectives on Hamilton Church Road, taken into custody without incident. His brother Marcos was arrested in the case on Thanksgiving night. Money News, Michelle Franzen.
A mixed day for markets. The Dow Jones losing 123 points and boosted by a higher than expected report of 227,000 jobs created in the month of November. The Nasdaq finishing off the day with a gain of 159 points. The S&P ending the week adding 15 points. In order to fulfill their promise to increase portion sizes and offset inflation, Chipotle leadership announcing they will implement a 2% price increase. The U.S. Department of Agriculture issued a new federal order requiring national testing for raw milk samples to test for bird flu. The virus was recently found in samples of raw milk from a California dairy farm. A federal appeals court upheld a law requiring China-based company ByteDance to sell the popular app TikTok or face a ban in the U.S. The judge rejecting the company's argument that a ban would violate the First Amendment rights of American users on the app.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Crash, South Nashville, 40 eastbound after Fessler's Lane. Then near Belmont, we got 65 northbound after Wedgwood Avenue. And there's a crash in Williamson County. This is the on-ramp it is the 65 northbound on-ramp from Old Hickory Boulevard south, right there at Brentwood. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
All right, getting to your calls and questions momentarily with our man, Jay St. Clair. We got a couple of folks on the line and many, many questions on the super text line. But right now, I just want to get to this story very quickly. And, Jay, I'm gonna hand you the mic and hand you the floor in just a moment. But I have two questions before I do. By the way, it's The Drive, Matt Murphy in for Brian. Hey, Jay, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever sent or received, in your legal career, which spans many decades, have you ever sent or received a cease letter?
No.
Okay. Jay, in your multi-decade legal career, have you ever sent or received a desist letter?
No.
Okay. All right. I've asked my two questions. Now, I think you might have a question for our man, Chris Weber.
Hey, Chris.
Yes. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, he's got you.
Yeah, I got you.
Look up the definition of the word desist. D-E-S-I-S-T. The first definition, you know how they give you several definitions?
Wow.
What is the first definition of desist?
Desist. What's the first definition?
Cease.
Pretty funny, isn't it?
Oh, Jay and I have talked about this for you. Jay, do lawyers get paid by the word?
Absolutely we do. So, Chris, you go ahead and tell the listeners what the definition of desist is.
Oh, he just did. He told us. Give it one more time. I don't know if you can hear him, Jay. One more time.
Cease.
Cease.
Okay.
Cease. Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So we can't just have a cease letter.
This is one of the many reasons, Chris, that people hate lawyers.
Well, if you're getting paid by the word, I would just call it a cease, desist, and abstain letter.
Hey, wait a minute.
That's Ken.
Let me write that down.
That's smart. That's Ken Weaver back in the newsroom, Jay. Ken's got it going on.
Ken, you are lawyer material, buddy.
Cease, desist, and abstain.
And if my grandmother had written the first one of these letters, and we've talked about why lawyers do that, it would not be called a cease and desist letter. It would be called a quit that letter.
Quit it. That's right. If my
I hear that you've been playing my songs on your radio. Quit that.
I have. If my grandma had done it, it'd been a cut that out. Cut that out. So here's the backstory: a cease and desist letter.
Yep.
Has been written to Cheatham Middle School. They say that they received the cease and desist letter from the University of Cincinnati, which has now threatened legal action over using their university mascot. Apparently, Cheatham Middle School uses the same logo and mascot as the University of Cincinnati Bearcats.
Yeah, the Bearcat.
Yeah, school officials said the letter concerned copyright and licensing infringement, as Cheatham's mascot is a Bearcat, and they call themselves the Cheatham Middle School Bearcats. So, I mean, I suppose that there's some legal standing going on here, but the reason I brought up the story is the aftermath of this, because there are a lot of brilliant people in the world, Jay.
There are.
So, in the aftermath, when this became public, Xavier University, and I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, Xavier or...
I think it's just Xavier.
Xavier. Yeah, Xavier University. And they're a marketing agency that is affiliated with Xavier called Synergistic. They have now offered to allow Cheatham to use Xavier's mascot, the Musketeers, and all logoing and copyrighted material. And they said that they would pay to change it.
That is so brilliant. So brilliant.
Synergistic, a fully integrated marketing and media company, has offered their full services at no charge to Cheatham Middle School in Tennessee following the University of Cincinnati issuing a cease and desist letter telling the school they have to change the Bearcat logo and mascot. In cooperation with Xavier, Synergistic has pledged to rebrand and redesign Cheatham's logo, mascot, a word mark, and provide any other marketing support if they agree to become the Musketeers gratis.
Whoever came up with that, whoever thought of that gets a big Christmas bonus this year. They're going to get millions of dollars of advertising for free.
For free.
Because of that brilliant idea.
Well, and Xavier, as Ray has just pointed out, is in what city? Anybody want to guess? It's in Cincinnati. So they are a competing university in the city of Cincinnati, and so they are.
That's better.
It's even better. So they're poking the Bearcats, so to speak. I absolutely love it. Let's get to a few questions. Cindy has a question out of Goodlettsville. Cindy, you're on with Jay St. Clair. Good afternoon.
Hi, Jay. It's nice to get to talk to you, and I love your show.
Thank you, Cindy.
I was calling about my mama. She's 90 years old, and she has her will in place already. She's already done it with the attorney, and she's changed it several times, just small changes, and it's costing her every time she does it. She's wanting to make a small change on it again about a beneficiary that was supposed to get a small percentage of something from one of the other people. And she wants to change that on her will again, but she wants to know if she can write it and then just have somebody witness it and then put it with her will when she dies. Is that still a
Yeah, she could do a codicil to the will. She could do that, and probably wouldn't be a problem, Cindy. But golly, here's the deal: the rules about wills are so old-fashioned. They go back hundreds of years. It's very technical, and she ought to be able to get something like this done for $100. I mean, it should not cost more than $100, and it's probably worth it. If she's got that kind of a will, I'm guessing her estate is substantial.
So, but it's not a large sum of money. It's like a percentage, like 5%.
Yeah. I mean, she can do that, but it's a codicil, just an addendum to it. But she's got I'll give you an example. I know somebody in Alabama that thought they were doing the right thing and helped their mother do a will. And got it all on the forms off the internet. And then her mother passed away, and so then they had to take it through. Well, they did not have the signatures of the witnesses notarized, Cindy. And under Alabama law, that's required. And so if you don't have that done, you have to go find the witnesses, bring them to court, have them testify in person that it's their signatures. That's how technical these kinds of issues can be, And so, I mean, if we're talking about, even more than $1,000, it should not cost more than $100 to get that done, or a couple $100 at most.
So you're just recommending then basically to the attorney.
She can do it, but my advice to you is to have a qualified trust and estates attorney do that. It's just money well spent.
Okay. Yeah, I just was wondering because we were, in Tennessee, I've heard you can just write it on a piece of paper and leave it for your family.
You can. You can. Wills are kind of like lawsuits. All you need is a piece of paper and a crayon. My grandmother, I remember when she passed away, she had a handwritten will.
Oh.
And and I don't think that I'm not even sure there's any witnesses, but the deal is if nobody's going to fight about it, then it's not a problem. It only really becomes an issue if the beneficiaries, get crossways with each other.
Cindy, thank you. Thank you so much for the telephone call. I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you calling in. Chris is next in Madison with a thought for Jay St. Clair on January 6th and the possibility of pardons. Chris, go right ahead, sir.
Hey, Mr. St. Clair. My name's Chris. I was one of the people that was convicted for the January 6th, and I'm using air quotes here, riot.
Oh, wow.
And, it's been mentioned that President Trump is going to issue some pardons for this. Now, I wasn't convicted of anything violent or anything like that. In fact, we often joke that I was convicted of being an extreme marcher. I was convicted of marching, demonstrating, or protesting in the Capitol building. I'd kind of like to have that pardon just so I can say, hey, I was there, I was convicted. Something that I'll need to file for, or is that something I'm going to see come through the mail on its own, or how does that work?
Here's my suggestion of what you should do with that. No, I would get in touch with your congressman. Do you know who your congressman is?
Chris,
I do not offhand. I'm embarrassed.
Are you in Madison, or do you live in Madison?
No, sir. I live in White House. I'm in Sumner County.
Okay.
I was in Madison at the time of the call. I'm now back in White House.
I get it. I get it. I'm gonna look it up, but yeah, I think Jay's on to the key to all this. Go ahead, Jay.
No, that's exactly right. Because what you want to do is get in touch with the White House. We don't know what's going to happen from this, but the best way for you to get access and get in touch with the people who have the party power is to work through your congressman. And I'm assuming it's the Republican. If it's a Democratic congressman, then we'll have to go.
No, we're good. I think, Chris, if I believe your congressman is Congressman John Rose. I believe you're in the 6th Congressional District.
So what you
I believe, yes, I am in the 6th. That's correct.
And Chris, I will say this. And you call. I'm putting Chris on hold. We got a little bit of road noise there, but Chris, if you're listening on hold, contact me, Matt at murphyshow.com, and if you have any trouble getting a hold of John Rose, I'll get you guys in connection because Jay, you're dead on it, right? I mean, you need someone in elected office to kind of help grease the wheels there and facilitate some of that, I believe.
No, I think that's exactly right. I expect what they'll do, they'll probably put a team on it, Matt. And yes, it sounds like they're going to draw a lot of distinction between violent crimes and nonviolent crimes. And they'll go through and they'll compile a list of it all. But you need an advocate on your side, and that your congressman is absolutely the way to do that.
Jay, so many questions in here, and I'm just going to have to pick from one or two of them because we are just desperately short on time. Here's a good one. I want to know, 1502 writes in and says, I want to know if Jay is pulling for Texas or Georgia tomorrow in the SEC championship game. I didn't write that question, Jay. I didn't write it.
Well, would it make any difference to Tennessee?
No, I don't think so.
Well, then I got to root for my best friend.
All right. That's what Chris Webber, that's what we love here. And Webber is also.
Hopefully it's the good news.
Webber's also a good Georgia man, Jay.
Absolutely. That's right. And plus, those Texas bills, there's another reason. They were claiming to be the real UT.
Oh, yeah.
I'm 100% in on Georgia.
Oh, there we go. That's what I like. Yeah, you're right. They're like, oh, we're the real UT. And we had to bring out the records and say, well, wait a minute. I think University of Tennessee was around a little bit longer than University of Texas. So.
Well, all we had to do is bring out Davy Crockett.
Jay, I'm sorry we're out of time. You know how much I love you, brother. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you, brother.
All right, take care. We'll see you. I apologize to those we did not get to. I'll try to clean up anything that we can possibly clean up on the drive. Coming up also in the 5 o'clock hour, Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson will join us to clean up what went down, I should say, in the United States Supreme Court case involving the state of Tennessee. We talked to AG Jonathan Skrmetti yesterday at around 2 o'clock on Super Talk, and today we speak to Senator Jack Johnson. That's coming up next on Super Talk. All right, looky, friends, a lot of people decide to cut corners by cutting out pest control in their home during the winter months. This is a big mistake, and J.K. Brister, Erica Brister, and the rest of the U.S. Pest team, they want you to know that. They don't say this because they necessarily want to do work that isn't effective. They say this because you get behind and you allow invasive pests into your home if you don't receive that wintertime pest control. Rodents and mice and other furries want to get inside of your house, and they want to utilize the warmth in your house when it's cold outside. That's what's happening, and if you don't take advantage of the U.S. Pest offer, then you possibly have those critters inside of your home, in your basement, or your crawl space. Crawl space services available for you. Termite protection available for you. Full-service pest control to deal with these things that want inside your home to take what's yours. You don't want to allow this. You want U.S. Pest. And the purpose for pest control is to prevent insect and rodent-borne diseases, and that's what they do at U.S. Pest. Call the best. Call U.S. Pest. If you've noticed a roach problem, you can get them out to your home before you have folks over for the Christmas holiday. USPest.com. That's USPest.com or 590-1260. 590-1260.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
5 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. CEO murder update. NYPD says the man suspected of gunning down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside that Midtown Manhattan hotel took a taxi to the Port Authority bus facility at 178th Street and then boarded a bus out of New York City after the shooting. He is still at large. The judge in the Daniel Penny case has tossed the manslaughter charge in the chokehold death of a mentally ill homeless man threatening people on a subway, but prosecutors still want to try to get the Marine veteran on negligent homicide, which carries a 4-year prison sentence. Right now in Nashville, Metro Police say the second twin has been arrested for the murder of Antioch restaurant owner Harang Zhu on November 24th. 17-year-old Emilio Leyva Hernandez was the passenger in a vehicle that was stopped by detectives on Hamilton Church Road and taken into custody without incident. His brother Marcos was arrested in the case Thanksgiving night. The investigation shows the boys fired an AR-style rifle at a Dodge Charger across the way, but Zhu, who had just left his business, Hot Stuffed Chicken, was struck in the head while pulling away in his Volkswagen SUV, his SUV then accelerating into a dentist office. Public and private universities cannot use race as major admissions criteria. Brian Clark says the nation's military academies are still allowed to consider race after a ruling by a federal judge in Maryland today against the same group that brought the initial challenges.
Students for Fair Admissions noted that it appealed all the way to the Supreme Court in its successful challenge to race as a consideration in college acceptance. The conservative group says it will follow the same path after a federal judge in Maryland rejected the group's bid to end racial considerations at the nation's military academies. The judge, appointed by President George W. Bush, ruled the commander-in-chief has broad deference to decide military personnel and that there's a compelling national security interest in a diverse officer corps.
TikTok running out of time after another loss in a D.C.-based federal appeals court.
The three-judge panel shrugs off concerns expressed by China-based ByteDance of the impracticality of a sale on short notice and the effects of a ban on users. The judges instead defer to national security fears expressed by the White House and Congress, saying China is engaged in an extensive effort to gather Americans' data. If active steps aren't taken to sell the app by January 19th, the court says tens of millions of devoted TikTok users will have to find alternative media of communication.
That is Stephen Portnoy reporting. And the latest news, traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, still working that crash, 40 eastbound after Fessler's Lane. Over here at Creve Hall, we've got 65 northbound before Harding Place, the right shoulder blocked by a crash. And looks like Lebanon Pike just east of Andrew Jackson Parkway, working a crash there in Hermitage. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, here we go. It's The Drive, halfway home this Friday edition, December 6th. Thank you for being with us. Matt Murphy in the saddle for you until 7 o'clock. Brian Wilson back, I guess, on Tuesday next. For those who do not know, I'll just kind of reset. As many of you are getting in your automobiles, you're done with work for the week. Maybe you got a couple of days off. I hope so. And thank you to all of you weekend warriors that allow us to spend some time with family and friends on the weekends. One way or the other, so Brian Wilson has announced his retirement. He's retiring officially full-time on December 24th. He's still going to be with the radio station. He's with us on these Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays on The Drive. The Drive goes into park on December 24th. It was announced earlier this week, and I am honored to be a part of this announcement that I will be moving to afternoon drive from 3 until 7, starting officially on January 2nd. And Chad Benson will be sliding in from noon until 3. So you still have live and local conversations starting at 5 a.m. with Dan Mandis, Chris Hand until noon. Chad will be in until 3, and then I'll be driving you home from 3 until 7. It's an absolute honor. I don't pause to think about it too long because I feel like I'll wake up, right? It's an honor to consider that I'm sitting in a seat where esteemed names like Brian Wilson sat and sits. Phil Valentine, obviously, the great Phil Valentine, whom we lost way too soon 3 years ago. It's always an odd and bittersweet thought to me because the only reason I'm here is because we lost Phil. And you know, I would not wish it so, obviously, but it's been such an honor and a privilege to be a part of your lives over the last 3 years. So thank you, and hopefully you'll let me take you home from 3 until 7 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Let's welcome in our next guest. Obviously, a lot of attention on the state of Tennessee nationally and internationally over the last week. And frankly, I think a lot of positive attention. While Tennessee has been somewhat in the crosshairs regarding a case involving transgender surgeries for minors, it has been a lot of news and a lot of positive news. And let me tell you, I'll give credit to my next guest who's sitting beside me. I'll give credit to AG Jonathan Skermetti. I'll give credit to all involved for presenting Tennessee in such a positive light and being able to present the case for SB1 and HB1, which was signed by Governor Bill Lee, I guess, 2 years ago, over the course of the last week or so, as it was argued before the United States Supreme Court. Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson joins us in studio. Hello, Jack.
Hello, Matt. Congratulations on your move to afternoon drive. That's exciting.
It'll be good. If we could just keep it light a little longer. I don't know if you have any ability to do that.
I thought about that as I was sitting out in my car in front of the studio. I'm standing out there waiting on you to come get me at the door. Yeah, loitering outside in the dark, you know. I did not bring my gun, but...
Hey, although, look... I think if Tennesseans voted, we would stay on daylight saving time.
Oh, 100%.
I don't think there's any question.
And by the way, people ask, why don't we do that as a state? And we have contemplated it. We could. You know, Arizona doesn't change. I think they're the only state that doesn't. And we got to looking at that. And the reason we don't want to do that on our own, we have more contiguous states than any other state.
8, right?
Yeah, that surround us. And so if we change and they don't, it completely disrupts, business and commerce and banking. Imagine in Georgia, if they're on one time and you got to change it all. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to do it on our own. I don't cede many things to the federal government, but they need to change this.
Well, and
the federal government.
And it's my understanding, I think I have this right. It's my understanding that if Tennessee wanted to just do it on our own, you could go to standard time, which is what Arizona's on.
Yeah.
What you can't do is unilaterally on your own stay at daylight saving time.
That's right.
So
which is what we would want to do.
Which is what
I think. Yeah,
I agree.
I agree.
And that's the sticky wicket, right?
Yeah.
Because the states just can't unilaterally do that. So you need but here's the light at the end of the tunnel. Apparently, on the long list of the Department of Government Efficiency priorities with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, it's on there. Permanent daylight saving time is on there, and I absolutely love it. I think it's ridiculous that we change it.
No, I do too. I don't like when we're in session. We go into session in January, and you pull out of the garage at 4:45, and when you're in session, you don't see much. There's not many windows. You don't really even know what. It's kind of like a casino. You don't really know what's going on outside. And you get to your car and you pull out of the garage and it's pitch black and it's 4:45. I don't like that at all.
Hold on, let me. Can we mark that where the moment where Jack Johnson compared the General Assembly to a casino? I would. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh boy, it's been a long week.
How's it been?
Let's end it on scandal.
It's been a whirlwind, right?
It really has, Matt. I mean, what an incredible honor to be in Washington, D.C., and my very special thanks to Jonathan Skrmetti and his team. They were able to get Leader William Lamberth, the House Majority Leader, and myself, the sponsors of Senate Bill 1, House Bill 1, actually into the chamber for the oral arguments. And I've never been in the building before. I've been to Washington. I've toured the Capitol. I've never toured the Supreme Court building. And to walk in there and the majesty of it all and the pomp and circumstance and the protesters and the security and everything. And Lamberth and I go walking into that chamber, and they're talking about our bill.
Right.
What a Forrest Gump kind of moment, Right. But it did make me very proud. It made me proud of Tennessee and our Attorney General, who we worked with on crafting this legislation, and to get there and listen to these 9 Supreme Court justices, really 8, because Gorsuch didn't talk, but talking about our legislation and talk about Tennessee and whether or not we should have a right to protect kids.
I mean, you wouldn't say this. I'll say this. I know you a long time. You're a humble guy. But you're a pretty important figure in the state of Tennessee. You've been to a lot of different places. You've seen a lot of different things. But that's got to be
it's because
of the
very
history,
top of the list, exactly.
of that building.
Think about this. I was thinking about this. My grandkids, great grandkids, if they should decide to follow in my wife's footsteps and become an attorney, they will be studying the Skrmetti case.
Right.
And that's what it will be called, I think. They will be
US
studying
Skrmetti.
And generations from now. And one, that's a tremendous compliment to our Attorney General, Jonathan Skrmetti, and his team, who, again, did an outstanding job defending our legislation. But, yeah, that's a bill that I sponsored. And again, it's a team effort. No one member can pass any bill, but the General Assembly, I think we passed a good bill, and Governor Lee signed it.
All right, I'm going to nerd out for a second and ask you, so what's the building like? What was that? Well, I mean, just being there, sitting there, experiencing
that's not nerdy at all.
What is that like?
So, I've been there from the outside. And, of course, it's beautiful. It's majestic, as, many Washington buildings are. And there were rallies taking place in front of the building on the street that's between the Supreme Court and the Capitol. And there was a couple of stages. There was kind of a stage for the people who don't like our law, and then those who like our law.
They kind of keep them separated.
Yeah, but they were actually pretty close together, but never felt unsafe. There was lots of security, lots of police. People were yelling and chanting, and they had bullhorns, and I got up and spoke, and Leader Lamberth got up and spoke before we went into the building. But then we go around to the side where we're actually going to go in. That's where we met up with General Skrmetti. The governor was there, and they take us all into the courtroom. And, of course, heavy security. You got to go through the magnetometers and all that. And then we got on an elevator and we went up a floor. So I guess the actual courtroom's on an elevated floor, second floor, and just big marble hallways. But you walk into this courtroom and there's the 9 chairs that are up there on the dais, and it's not very big. And someone said it holds about 200 people that can actually be in there to observe. And of course, every seat was full. And So yeah, it was really, really cool. And then to see all the justices come out, Kavanaugh and Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett, Clarence Thomas, and Chief Justice John Roberts. It was really, really something special.
You mentioned Gorsuch. He's kind of an unknown in this. There's some. I think he made a ruling that maybe concerns some people who are supportive of the law, supportive of the legislation. He was very quiet, noticeably quiet during oral testimony. What was your takeaway from just that? The time spent listening to questions from the judges.
It was 2.5 hours, and I thought, well, how's this going to go? I was on the edge of my seat, but again, I'm pretty close to it, I guess, and have been following the litigation on this legislation. We talked about a lot of this when we were crafting the bill and passing it. Because keep in mind that, there were some states that passed variations of this bill in 21, 22 that were immediately enjoined. So we knew that when we wanted to tackle this, we had to start from scratch and try to build a case, to craft a law that would withstand judicial scrutiny. And of course, the Attorney
make
General,
sure that you don't fall into any of those traps or
all
whatnot.
the traps, exactly, because you're going to get sued.
Right.
You know that you are, given the subject matter. But we did all of that, and so listening to the justices ask the questions, and of course a lot of it was over my head. I'm not a lawyer, but I really enjoyed listening to Jay Sinclair talk about it and some of the different arguments that were being made. But you'd listen to Kavanaugh ask some questions, and you go, yeah, okay, he's on. He's kind of feels when he was challenging the plaintiffs. But then Justice Kagan or Justice Jackson or Sotomayor, and they came after our guy, the Solicitor General who's arguing on our behalf. So it was really fascinating to listen to.
And I said something wrong earlier, and I want to correct myself, and a listener pointed it out to me that I thought that Jackson asked the aspirin question. I think it was Sotomayor that asked
Sotomayor.
Jackson actually compared minor transgender surgery to biracial relationships or marriage, interracial marriage, which seemed odd to me. But Jay has taught me, because he's one of the few people that I know that has actually argued before the court, right?
Successful.
And he loves to tell the story about how he thought he had Ginsburg on his side, and then she wrote the most, just this scathing
I heard
dissent,
him talk about it and read it from the bench.
Right.
That's how strongly she felt.
Right. And he's like, well, that shows what I know. And then that's his example of never assume. But, you have to feel, I don't know. Is it misplaced that I feel so good?
Well, so what I kind of build from, and when you follow the litigation, so there's a federal district trial court judge who did enjoin the portion of our bill that did, and that's really all that's at stake. And I think you know this, but to make sure your listeners know, we banned surgeries on minors, and we also banned the use of prescription drugs for purposes of treating gender dysphoria, puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, that type of thing. What they're suing us over are the drugs. They didn't even challenge the surgeries. That's not even being challenged.
It's important.
But on the drug side of things, and the Sixth Circuit. So the federal trial court judge did enjoin a portion of our bill dealing with the drugs, but the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, we appealed up to them, and they reversed the lower court's decision. So our law is in effect right now. Kids are protected in Tennessee. The full law is in effect based on the decision of the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. So really, and lawyers out there are probably yelling at the radio, but in layman's terms, we want the Supreme Court to affirm what the Sixth Circuit said. Right. Said, yeah, the Sixth Circuit got it right. The states do have the right to regulate these procedures.
Well, and the two central questions to me is, it does the 14th Amendment apply? Is this a matter of the Equal Protection Clause? And it felt like Skermetti and his team just knocked that out of the park.
Yeah, they did. And the analogy that I thought was just so telling, and that's why these guys are so brilliant in what they do. The Solicitor General used an example. They're saying that if you deny the ability to prescribe testosterone to a girl and you don't deny it to a boy, that's discrimination based on sex. Well, those drugs are far different purposes. Right. If a boy is not developing naturally and going into puberty, they may prescribe testosterone to right that, to correct that, so the boy can naturally go into puberty. Prescribing testosterone to a girl is to stop that, is to divert and change the normal development of the girl. So anyway, it gets into the weeds.
It's in effect. And I would argue it's in effect to it might be the same drug, but it accomplishes two different things.
Exactly.
So it may as well be two different drugs that we're talking about.
Exactly. And that's where they talked about medical purpose, and states have a right to regulate medical purpose and using drugs for certain things. The other analogy they gave is it's one thing to prescribe morphine to someone who is, suffering from late-stage cancer and in tremendous pain, and so you prescribe morphine to relieve that pain, versus prescribing morphine to someone to commit suicide. You're using the same drug, but for two totally different purposes. So it's a really interesting thing, and it's a big moment for Tennessee.
Well, and as you and I talked right before we came on air, that we luckily, it's relatively new in the sense that we don't have a lot of long-term after effects, but we're starting to see some of that coming out of Europe.
That's right.
And we're starting to see some of that coming out of the United States of America, where people who were young and transitioned have now attempted to detransition. Chloe Cole is such a wonderful, courageous example of this.
Yeah.
Her willingness to tell her story and to talk about what happened to her and how it permanently, it was life-altering. And frankly, I said it the other day, correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, the only justification is, and Skrmetti said this. He said it this way. The argument is that, you can have a dead girl or a live boy.
Right.
That argument simply doesn't hold water. Alito brought it up, that there simply are not enough reputable studies that indicate that suicide rates go up based on people not having these types of procedures done to them.
Right, and there is substantial evidence to show that the suicide rate of people who go through transition and then later in life regret it, and the suicide rate of those people. So to me, when you boil it all down, it's a fairly common sense case. I think you shouldn't be doing things that are irreparable, irreversible to children. You have no scientific evidence to show that the long-term effects of it are positive.
Senator Jack Johnson is with us for the better part of the hour. We're going to talk about the legislative session that's upcoming, but if you have any questions about the case that was just argued before the Supreme Court, I think Jack's a good guy to ask. 615-737-9986. We're back momentarily on The Drive.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
CEO murder update, Daniel Penny case update. These stories and more at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Ken Weaver. It is 3 minutes until we get to that newscast on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Let me do some math. That means it's 5:27 on Super Talk. Call us if you so desire, 615-737-9986. Matt Murphy, along for the ride and along for the drive, along with Senator Jack Johnson, talking about what I believe is a grand success on the part of the state of Tennessee. And really, I mean, and we should note, Jack, that it is, it affects more than just us in the state of Tennessee. Obviously, the majority of this state wants to see Senate Bill 1, HB 1, continue to be the law of the land in our state. But it's going to impact, 24 or so other states that have similar legislation?
That's right. We're up to 25, 26 states now that have passed some version of the legislation that we passed. And I'm very proud to say that many states are modeling their legislation on what we did and the way we approached it, because ours has been successfully defended so far. Our law is the first one of this nature in the country to be successfully defended thus far. And it has through the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. Hopefully the Supreme Court will uphold that ruling. But you're right, and that's important for your listeners to know. This case is not about a nationwide ban on this. No, it's much like the Dobbs decision relative to abortion. This is just affirming the rights of states to make decisions about how you regulate these procedures. So if a California or New York or an Illinois, they want to allow them or pay for them or whatever, they can do so. But states like Tennessee and other like-minded states, and over half of our states feel that way, would be able to ban it.
Yeah, everything's relative. And from a relative standpoint, there are, not that many of these situations in Tennessee or across America. And I say relative to the overall population. However, I think a microcosm of the individual parents that are going through this misrepresent the parents themselves. And what I mean is, sadly, those that get the most airtime on major media networks have become, very vocal advocates, and they have truly just bought into this concept because they bought into a lot of what some of these doctors and psychiatrists are saying to them. The vast majority of parents, and I said this the other day, and I've heard you say the same, that these are parents that just want to help their children.
Absolutely.
And I know Jack Johnson, Jonathan Skermetti, William y'all are sensitive to that these are parents that are just trying to do the best for their kids. What do you say when you speak to those parents? What do you say when you speak about those parents?
One of the things I've come away from this whole process with is a deeper understanding and respect for how difficult this process or development, adolescence, puberty, development of your body can be on some kids. And for some kids, it is a nightmare. And I can't explain that. I don't know the medicine behind it. Fortunately, I think my puberty and adolescence was fairly normal, and I've got 3 wonderful kids, and I think theirs was as well. But for some kids, this is a very, very difficult time. I recognize that and acknowledge it, and we should love these kids. And you're right. Parents, I mean, God forbid it be one of my kids, or we should love these kids. We should love the parents. They want what's best for their kids. But at the same time, the state does have that compelling interest to protect kids. And our law does not penalize parents. It doesn't provide any kind of a criminal penalty to parents.
Mm-hmm.
It does do so for medical providers that would perform these procedures. So we've created a prohibited medical practice, and I think that's the way to approach it. So I have nothing but love and compassion in my heart, and I can say the same for my colleagues in the General Assembly who supported this legislation. Let's make sure that these kids have access to mental health treatment and psychological care. We should do a better job of that, and we're working to do that. Let's love these kids, get them through this difficult time. And in Tennessee, we recognize you as an adult at 18. On your 18th birthday, you want to go start taking medicines or have your body parts altered in some way, you can do so, but not when you're a kid.
Well, and age restrictions based on the age of majority, I mean, they have been in existence in the United States of America since we founded the country. Absolutely. I mean, the Constitution, our founding document creates age restrictions regarding service in the House of Representatives and the Senate or as President of the United States. They recognized that with age comes a certain level of maturity and wisdom and an ability to make a decision that you understand is going to impact you for the rest of your life.
That's exactly right. And again, as you said, we have a myriad of ways we do that. You can't get a tattoo in Tennessee until you're 18. You can't enlist in the military. You have to obey your parents until you're 18. But once you're 18, you can strike out on your own.
You don't have to want to. You just have to do it.
But you have to, yeah.
I tell you what, we'll continue a conversation. Hey, Miss Bobby Petrae's on the line. I love Miss Bobby. We're going to talk to her in just a moment. And we'll also ask Jack what we can anticipate out of the General Assembly coming up in January. That's next on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. NYPD says that suspect in United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson's murder boarded a bus out of town after the shooting. He's still at large. The judge in the Daniel Penny case has tossed the manslaughter charge in the death of Jordan Neely, a mentally ill homeless man who was threatening people on a subway. The jury deadlocked on manslaughter, but prosecutors are going to try to get Penny on the lesser negligent homicide charge, which carries a 4-year prison sentence. TikTok loses again. Stephen Portnoy says a D.C.-based federal appeals court upholding the law requiring a sale of the extremely popular video sharing app.
Having now failed to convince a panel of federal appeals court judges that it should remain in the hands of China-based ByteDance, TikTok says it will look to the Supreme Court. The big question is where President-elect Trump now stands. In his first term, Trump called for a ban on TikTok, and his incoming FCC chair has long advocated for that. But in this last campaign, Trump suggested he would save the app. The law upheld by the appeals court requires a sale by January 19th, allowing for a one-time presidential waiver based on active steps to divest.
Another court battle today. A federal district judge in Maryland rejected a group's effort to remove affirmative action race consideration to get into the military academies. The judge saying it's a matter of national security to have a diverse force and should be left up to the military and president. And a sad update on the search for a grandmother who fell into a sinkhole while looking for her cat in western Pennsylvania. State Trooper Steve Lamani says the body of the 64-year-old woman was found today where the earth opened up above an abandoned coal mine.
We found her approximately 30 feet below the surface of where the mine would have sat.
The body of Elizabeth Pollard located on the 4th day of the search. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Got a few crashes out there, but they don't seem to be causing that big of a problem. Let's check here in Nashville 65 northbound, right before Harding Place. You've got the right shoulder blocked. Then you've got 24 eastbound in Robertson County, a crash right before Maxey Road. Williamson County and Brentwood. We've got the left shoulder block, 65 northbound at Old Hickory Boulevard. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live. Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I was just talking with Senator Jack Johnson about, some of the cabinet nominations being presented by President-elect Donald J. Trump. And I don't know. I didn't ask you this question. We were kind of getting there. I was a little, I admit, I was a little disappointed, not just because I like him, but because of also the cascade effect and the interest that it would create in what would happen next if Bill Hagerty had been selected for a cabinet position. I don't know if there's anything that would appeal to him left, but I was kind of hoping for Treasury. I think he would do a great job. He does a great job as a United States Senator, too, but it would be an interesting cascade effect should that have happened.
For political junkies, it probably would have created a lot of fun and speculation and that type of thing. But here's the great news about Senator Hagerty. He is an outstanding United States Senator, and we're lucky to have him there. If President Trump sees fit to offer him a position in the administration, he would excel in anything he does. You think about it, he was Commissioner of Economic Community Development under Governor Bill Haslam, did an amazing job there, and, of course, was in the Trump administration as ambassador to Japan. He worked on the Trump transition team in 2016. He's got a wealth of experience, very, very smart man. And whether he serves as our United States Senator or in any other capacity, we're going to be well served.
Well, and I'll say this while we're on the subject, and I assume you would agree, that I appreciate the approach that our United States Senators are taking with the nominations.
Yes.
Their job sure is to advise and to consent. At the same time, I think they look at it as, look, the American people offered Donald Trump a mandate to make his own selections. And I feel like the way that I would look at it is, okay, I'm going to look at you. I'm going to see if I believe that you are qualified. And unless there is a disqualifying element to your candidacy, then I should honor and respect the selection of the incoming president.
There should be a presumption of being qualified, a presumption of, yes, this is the right person because the president-elect wants this person.
Right.
And so the bar to say no to the president-elect should be very, very high. And sadly, we have seen some in the United States Senate, I think, abuse that and, play games with that kind of thing. But no, I'm very proud of Senator Blackburn, Senator Hagerty, who are standing by President Trump and supporting his nominees. And they have been some outstanding nominees so far.
And I love this because the left doesn't know what to do with this. And the mainstream media, which you were a part of that grind over the last week, they won't bring this up. But, look at the cabinet that he is nominating. He's got two Democrats that he's nominated, Tulsi Gabbard and RFK. He's got a gay man, and I only say that because that seems to be very important to the political left as a nominee for Treasury Secretary. He's got many diverse backgrounds, many different types of individuals coming into the it is a reflection, in my opinion, of the United States of America, and the fact that he's willing to put people with which he disagrees vehemently on certain issues. RFK. And he jokes around and says, look, as long as you don't touch my oil, don't touch the oil, go with the hell, right? Right?
I agree with you. You're good on this one issue, and that's what I'm going to
do that thing.
But you know what it's a reflection of, Matt, is it's the exact opposite of DEI, diversity, equity. And it's literally choosing people because of their merit. And you know what is happening when he's picking people who are very qualified and would be very good at the job? You're naturally getting a very diverse population of people. I love it. He's thinking outside of the box, and I'm probably most excited about Vivek and Elon going after the federal bureaucracy. Isn't that incredible?
Well, and what I love is the dynamic that it creates, that the leftist in the mainstream media and the political left, they are positioned to argue against eliminating government waste.
That's exactly right.
That's what they're arguing right now. And their argument is, well, it's going to be a lot harder than you think. Really?
Yeah.
You either want it or you don't want it, right?
Well, and you've got two very, very successful business people there, Vivek and Elon Musk, who have run successful businesses, and they've had to, when Elon Musk bought Twitter, he fired
40, it's a lot. I don't know how many.
A very high percentage of the number of employees and made the company better. So we need that type of a viewpoint in federal government.
Bobby FriJay joins us on the line. Hello, Bobby. How are you?
Hello. It's nice to hear you guys talking about all this tonight. I have a question. You asked about another bill that might be coming up, and I want to mention that. But first of all, I want to thank Jack and William for all that they did to make this come about. What we got to see happen today at the Supreme Court. It's exciting. It's scary. We're all going to be holding our breath a little bit until we get the final decision. But I think that we're hopeful, and I think we have a right to be hopeful. I think a lot of the work was done that could have been done and should have been done to present the best case to the Supreme Court. So, Jack, thank you, and thank William, too.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you for your friendship.
Well, I do have a question. Matt asked about legislation that we might be facing. And let me go back. In 1975, before I knew the world of politics existed, somebody put a copy of a piece of legislation in my hand and told me to read it. I read it, and it was about the proposed Equal Rights Amendment to the Constitution. I looked at that, and I thought that was the stupidest thing I ever read in my life. That has nothing to do with equal rights, but everything has to do with a unisex society. Well, guess what we've got going to have in the legislature this coming session? HJR 5, which is going to be a state constitutional amendment on the Equal Rights Amendment. I want to get my voice out there first and say, no way, Jose.
Yeah, who is introducing that, Bobby? Do you know?
Is it Ben, how she pronounces her name?
Afton Ben. Oh, good old Afton.
Yes. So I wanted to be the first one to draw attention to that as we go forward.
Well, thank you, Bobby, and you know how much we love and value your opinion on so many important issues, and you've been such a great asset to the General Assembly for many years. I haven't read it. I don't know anything about it. I can tell you that if it's being introduced by that particular representative, I'm already suspect.
We're already starting at a deficit.
Well, I will tell you this. That is 50 years ago for me.
Well, no, I mean it will be an interest, and you're not, no way you're that old, by the way, Miss Bobby. But anyway, it's going to be it draws up an interesting conversation, and thank you for the call, Miss Bobby. So Afton, I've had Afton on the show once, and she's a pleasant enough person. She won't come back on. She doesn't like me anymore for some reason because we had a delightful conversation about cutting taxes. She wanted to cut the sales tax on groceries. Mm-hmm. Which I'm like, absolutely 100%. Just tell me where you're going to save that money through the cost of government. We'll do that. So, no. We're going to make it up on, corporate taxes and these types of things. Yeah. And where we kind of got off kilter is I was trying to explain to her how businesses don't really pay taxes. And she could not or would not get it.
Couldn't get her mind around that.
Could not wrap her mind around the idea that if you own a business and the cost of doing business goes up, that you either have to cut costs out of production or pass that cost along.
You pass it along. It's just a different form of tax. Right. You're just passing it along in the cost of goods. And I think we have enough problems with inflation right now that government shouldn't be contributing to that.
The big issue, obviously, in the General Assembly in the few moments that we have left, is the issue of school choice. Mm-hmm. Were you surprised that it took a year? Were you surprised that last year took the time that it did to kind of flush out the pros and cons? And because it seemed like we were close to a decision, but there were a couple of aspects that the House and the Senate just quite couldn't agree on?
Yeah, so, with an issue like that, I was disappointed. I really wanted to get it done this past legislative session, but, with a big idea like that, and there's some moving pieces and parts, and we were talking about education in general, and where the House and the Senate got a little bit separated, but I think we've come back together now, is, there's a lot going on in education. We got over 1 million kids in schools of some sort, and public education is very important to us, K-12 public education, and we've done a lot to improve that and appropriate a lot more money. At the same time, we think we ought to empower parents to make other choices if they deem that appropriate for their child. So the House wanted to do some fixes to kind of traditional public education in the same bill. The Senate was a little concerned about that, so we couldn't get it done. It's a reflection of the fact that we're not there year-round, and I don't want to be there year-round. It's one of the reasons we're effective. We go in for a limited amount of time. We accomplish what we can accomplish, and if we can't get there, it's okay to take the summer and the fall when we're not in session and have more conversations about it. And that's what we did. I think we've ended up with a really, really good bill now. It really addresses any concerns that any pro-public education advocates could have relative to protecting funding for those institutions of public education that's out there now. So I feel really good about it, optimistic. We have some new members. We have 3 brand new senators in the Senate. They're all Republicans. I've been talking to them, and I know the governor's people have been talking to them. They're new to this. They weren't part of the conversation before. I think we have, 10 or 11 new House members. So So the legislation's out there. People are reading it, digesting it, going back home, talking to their local folks. I think we'll get it done.
The biggest concern that I hear from our audience would be the concerns, and I think you've addressed them over the last 12 months. I think members of the House, William Lamberth and others, have addressed them as well. The concerns about the government getting more involved in aspects of private education. And you feel comfortable, I believe, that there are safeguards in place that would not allow, the fear is that, the camel's nose under the tent type of thing with private ed.
Well, and I've heard those concerns as well, and I respect them, but I do disagree. I think that the protections are in place. We are creating a scholarship. And let me tell you, Matt, for over 20 years, we've had a very similar type of scholarship called the Hope Scholarship for kids to go to college. And they can use that in private schools. We haven't gone in to try to manipulate or change private colleges and universities. We're not going to do that with this scholarship either. We are fierce defenders of the independence of private schools, homeschooler groups, and so forth. So, and I always use this example, and some people get upset with me about it. We don't need to create a scholarship program to come in and meddle with private schools. We could do that today.
If you wanted to.
If we wanted to. We're not going to do that because we respect the independence of private schools. And another thing that's important about this is no private school is required to take these scholarships. No parent is required to utilize the scholarship. So there will be some schools that will take it and some parents that will use it if they think it's appropriate. But no, we're not. This is not a pathway to try to go in and have more government intervention in private schools or homeschooling. I would fight that tooth and nail.
All right, let's make some headlines here today, Jack. Who's running for governor in 2 years? What do you think?
Who isn't?
Is Jack Johnson running for governor?
No. We can make that very, very clear. I've seen that job up close, and I don't want it. No, we have some really, really great folks out there.
We're about to start talking about that.
We
next
really
year,
are.
aren't we?
I mean, it's upon us, and over the next few months, I think you'll see some folks announce. And I'm good friends with some folks that are looking at it very seriously. And I see a lot of really, really good, high caliber people out there looking at it, and we're going to be well served. And again, I'm specifically on the Republican side. We've got some really, really good folks that are looking at it, and we'll let that process work itself out.
Jack, thanks for spending the better part of an hour with us, talking about your week in Washington, D.C., everything that was accomplished there in the upcoming legislative session. You know how much we appreciate it.
Absolutely, Matt. Thanks for having me.
There's Senator Majority Leader Jack Johnson, 52 after the hour. This is The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
I do everything from scrubbing cages to asking people for donations to answering the phones and helping facilitate getting animals to the rehab. I'm there on the weekends, up there taking care of animals with the team.
You got a great team there. It's a small team, but a great team that works together. And
Well, I started about 20 years ago. My dear friend Carol Burgess founded Harmony in Fairview.
Okay.
And we decided to reopen it in West Nashville. And we are rocking along. Lots of animals. One of the primary calls that we get are, I found a bird, it's on the ground, what do I do? And in most situations, you should let it alone unless there's an imminent danger to that animal, because the parents are helping it and feeding it, and it just needs a couple of scary days on the ground until it gets back up into flight. What about bunnies, Melody? Can we give advice about bunnies?
The bunnies, they're just the sweetest, most innocent creatures, and we just see the worst things happen to them. Cats, dogs, lawnmowers, weed whackers.
In most cases, if the animals aren't injured, if you can put the rabbits back, that's always better to be with the mother rabbit than to come to us.
All the storms that have been coming through and just destroying nests, and a lot of babies will be found on the ground. Re-nesting is possible and preferable.
You play the video calls and you put the baby near where they found it, and the mama will actually come down and pick it up and then bring it back.
Oh, nice.
Isn't that cool?
Nice.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, full forecast, and traffic in 5 minutes. Well, the nation is waiting as the U.S. Supreme Court weighs arguments for and against Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming care for minors. The bill doesn't penalize parents, but it does go after doctors who provide the care. Tennessee State Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson's co-author of the bill, and he went to Washington, D.C. for Tuesday's proceedings. He tells WTN's Matt Murphy.
One of the things I've come away from this whole process with is a deeper understanding and respect for how difficult this process or development, adolescence, puberty, development of your body can be on some kids. And for some kids, it is a nightmare.
Senator Jackson says Tennessee needs to do a better job at ensuring kids have access to mental health care, and the legislation is working toward it. The legislature, he says, is working toward it. Meanwhile, it could be months before the Supreme Court rules on Tennessee's law. CEO shooting update. New York City police think the suspect is no longer in the city. They think he got on a bus out of town after killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. And the judge in Marine veteran Daniel Penny's chokehold case has tossed the manslaughter charge because the jury was deadlocked. The judge told the jury to return Monday to deliberate the lesser charge of negligent criminal homicide in the death of Jordan Neely, whom the defense claims was high and having a psychotic episode while threatening people on the New York City subway last year when he died after being put in that hold. A D.C.-based federal appeals court has upheld the law requiring TikTok's parent company to sell the app or be banned in the U.S. Stephen Portnoy with more.
The D.C. Circuit Appeals Court flatly rejects the argument made by China-based ByteDance, instead deferring to the fears expressed by the White House and Congress of China's extensive efforts to gather Americans' data. The court says China has, quote, positioned itself to manipulate public discourse on TikTok in order to serve its own ends. If ByteDance doesn't take steps to sell the app by January 19th, the court says under the law, TikTok will be effectively unavailable in the U.S.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Well, we got a crash on 24 westbound in Laverne. It is right after Waldron Road. It is blocking the left lane. Looking over here on 65, we've got a crash northbound at Vietnam Veterans Boulevard. And then 24 eastbound right after MLK Parkway in Montgomery County. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is just after 6 o'clock, 6:08 to be precise. My name is Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson on the Drive, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us. We appreciate you. Hopefully your drive home's going well, one way or the other. You know, somebody, someone, I noted earlier today that that I will be permanently in this time slot, 3 until 7. I've been honored with the opportunity to sit in the chair that Brian Wilson has sat in for the last 3 or so years. That Phil Valentine sat in before him. And it is an absolute honor and a privilege to be able to speak with you on a daily basis as you make your commute home. And someone asked me if we would continue calling it The Drive. And I was like, well, no, of course not. I mean, that was kind of Brian's deal, Brian's thing. And, you know, he's parking. He's going into park on December 24th. So we'll call it something different. By the way, we're open to suggestions.
Yeah, maybe we should just hold a contest.
Oh, that'd be good. But someone, I've lost it. Let me see if I can find it. Someone offered, Sally was the one that offered it. I thought I put it on the prep page. I think she wanted to call the show The Parking Lot. I think that's.
Well, that's where I wrestle people on Saturday nights.
Sally says that we should call the show The Parking Lot because that's what we're dealing with right now is a bunch of parking lots. We're not dealing so much with The Drive. Maybe considering how national traffic has gotten, that would be more of an appropriate name for the show. But one way or the other, we'll figure it out. And I'm just honored and pleased to be here. So I could get into any number of serious-minded issues, and I'm not suggesting that what I'm about to talk about isn't serious in its nature. But I have questions for Ken Weaver, and I have a question for Chris Webber.
All right.
Have you two gentlemen seen Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer?
You talking about that claymation one?
I am.
Yeah. Well, I thought you meant in person.
Well, no. Well, or maybe.
I'm sure I have seen it, but if I have, it's been years and years.
So for years, I've facilitated this subject for a number of years, and I'm very passionate about it, and I'm curious where the audience is going to be on it. I don't know that I've talked about it on Super Talk 99.7 WTN since I've been here, but we're going to talk about it tonight.
All right.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is a horrible, horrible, horrible show. It's awful. Santa Claus is horrible.
He's discriminatory.
Well, we're gonna walk through it. Because I have long maintained that this is an awful message to send children.
I think I'm right there with you.
Okay, so we're going to break this down. Now, for years I did this on the radio, and then for a number of years, and I think I'm going to try to crank this up at some point in Nashville. A buddy of mine, Richard Dixon, and I in Birmingham, for about 10 years, did a show called Rated R Rudolph. In which it was a Mystery Science Theater 3000 type show, in which we presented Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and we provided commentary over Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and we raised a lot of money. We raised toys. It was a Toys for Tots campaign.
Oh, well, that's good.
That was good. You know, you just come in with a new unwrapped toy and you listen to two knuckleheads with microphones cuss a lot. But it's basically what it amounted to. But the genesis of this show was the premise that, I mean, if you think about it for a moment, Rudolph is a horrible, horrible message. So what we send, the message that we're sending to young people is that if you are mildly different in any way with anybody else, we are going to bully and ridicule you from the top down until such time as we need you. And then you're okay.
And then we're going to scold your daddy.
You ought to be ashamed. Ashamed? His child had a mild birth defect, and you're telling him he ought to be ashamed of saying it?
Yeah, man.
So, 1964's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is celebrating its 60th anniversary, and it's my understanding it is on the old television tonight.
Yeah.
Really?
Hoda Kotb and what's her name? Savannah. Hey, they were bragging about it this morning. Said they were going to have a pajama party while they watch.
Didn't you and Dan Mandis used to have pajama parties, Weaver?
Brother Dan would drag me into those conversations. Hey, by the way, Gary Sneeze, Ken and I'd like you to come over and watch movies in your pajamas.
The funniest moment. It might be the funniest moment I've ever heard on this radio station.
And yeah, Dan thought he was not on the phone, and he still was.
So, yeah, if you, Dan was interviewing Gary Sinise, star of stage and film, and about the Gary Sinise Foundation. And somehow it had been brought up. No, I think Johnny B and Ken, y'all were picking on him that he ought to invite him over.
Yes.
And then Dan said, I didn't ask Gary to come over and do a pajama party with me.
Yeah.
That's my Dan Madison impersonation. And I think Johnny said something along the lines of, he's still on the line. He goes, oh, you didn't think he heard me, did you? And then you hear Gary Sinise go, every word.
Every word.
Oh, that is too good.
I don't think they've done that pajama party.
Well, he had some fancy ones.
Mandis did?
No, Gary.
Oh, well.
I'm just joking.
I bet he would. I mean, he lives around here. Gary, give us a call. Let us know about your PJ situation. So, Christmas is supposed to be a time of happiness and love.
Yeah.
And cheer and kindness.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's all well and good, but somebody forgot to tell Santa.
Yeah.
Because at the beginning of this movie, Santa decides he arrives at Donner and Mrs. Donner's house to see what up. And Mr. Donner has already tried to rub mud all over Rudolph's poor nose because it's glowing.
Yeah.
Well, the mud rubs off, and Santa Claus essentially says, and I'm going to paraphrase this, but he essentially says, let's hope your little freak kid stops glowing like that. Otherwise, he's got no shot at my sleigh.
Yeah. Wow.
Basically. So the movie goes on. They, develop this little cone to go over the kid's nose. We join the elves where a little tyrant is controlling the elves, and he's cracking the whip on the elves.
Yeah.
I can only assume that's because Santa Claus is demanding it. You got to get his toys out.
Yeah, I mean, it's... You're right, man.
I mean, it's just a little sweatshop is what it is.
Yes.
Little sweatshop going on.
It is.
And then the one kid that doesn't really want to make toys, I guess, I don't know if they're English or whatever, they're anti-dental hygiene because the one kid wants to be a dentist.
Yeah, that's Herbie. I don't want to make toys, Santa. I want to be a dentist.
That's pretty good. That's a damn good Herbie.
That little Herbie.
Is it Herbie or Hermie? I think it's both.
It's Herbie.
Is it Herbie?
I think it's Herbie. Well, let me look it up.
I don't know. I think they say both.
He just wants to be a dentist.
That's pretty good. That's pretty darn
well,
very good.
I've watched that show probably 53 of my 56 years.
So Herbie or Hermie, I don't know. Maybe he's called both. He gets ridiculed.
You're right. It's Hermie.
Is it Hermie?
Hermie the misfit elf.
Well, there you go. So Hermie gets ridiculed. All he wants to do is provide a little dental hygiene for the elves at the North Pole.
That's all he wants.
And apparently that's no good. And you know that all those elves are eating cookies and they're drinking candy
hot
canes,
cocoa,
chocolate milk, and all that nonsense. So Rudolph goes to reindeer practice, and there's the little hussy Clarice comes on to him and gets him all excited.
Yeah.
And so he flies into the air, and everybody's, Santa loves it. Santa loves it. Look at him go. Oh, he's great. Until his little nose pops off, and that's when he looks at Donner and... and Santa Claus looks at Donner. Yo, Donner, you ought to be ashamed.
Yeah.
Ashamed? Man, I'm just doing what comes natural to reindeers. I didn't have anything to do with his red nose.
Yeah, it's his mama's fault.
It's his mama's fault. So it only gets worse. So Rudolph and Hermie go off into they team up, and they're like, well, nobody loves us, so we'll just be castaways. And they hook up with this dope addict called Yukon Cornelius.
Yeah.
I mean, they can call it, Ken, they can say it's peppermint all they want, but we know. I mean, man, he's licking his little...
he's just going to town on it.
Licking his pickaxe.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, buddy. I mean, you've got an addiction problem, and you need to get into a program.
Especially if you're licking a pickaxe.
I mean, I mean, ew. Weaver has seen this show a lot. That's perfect. Do it again. Oh, it's a peppermint mine. So
watch the candy, Yukon.
Wow, he knows too much of it. You need to not tune in tonight, Ken. I mean,
Yukon,
I know it already.
I think Yukon's snorting the peppermint. You know.
Yeah.
So Rudolph and Hermie hook up with this Yukon Cornelius, who's just wielding a firearm while he's high on peppermint. And they try to go to the island of misfit toys, where they think that they can live. Because in this universe, friends, Santa Claus does not take responsibility for screwing toys up.
No.
Right? So they made the toys. They make the toys wrong. And when the toys come out wrong, what do? They ship them off to an island.
Yeah.
They don't try to fix them or anything.
They don't try to fix them. And I still, if you've watched the show enough, I defy you to tell me what the hell's wrong with the doll. There's nothing wrong with the doll.
Yeah, what is wrong with the doll? I got to look that up.
There's nothing wrong with that. The only thing I've seen, Ken, is that the doll has psychological problems.
It didn't pass the examination.
Which, I mean, you know what? If I hung out with Santa Claus long enough, I'd probably have psychological problems, too, because any mild variance from the norm, and he's going to ridicule you and send you to the island of misfit toys.
That's what it says.
Does it really?
She might have a psychological issue. So, yeah, that's bad, too.
But let's just ship her off to an island where some king lion holds court, and there's there's a gun that shoots jelly.
Yeah,
remember that? And there's a bird that doesn't fly, he swims, which would be a penguin. I don't understand any of this at this point. So
and a cowboy who rides an ostrich.
Oh yeah. I don't know what's wrong with that either, but you know. So be it. The train with square wheels, see, that's an assembly problem.
Right.
That's a quality control problem back at the Elf Factory.
Seems like an easy fix, too, quite frankly.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
It is replaced. So all of this would be so they go off to the Island of Misfit Toys. They're told they're not allowed to live there because apparently they're human or whatever. And, you know, speaking of misfits, we established there's nothing really wrong with the doll. There's really not a lot wrong that can't be easily fixed by the elves with any of these toys. The abominable snow monster gets all of his teeth pulled out for just doing what snow monsters do, which is a little disturbing in and of itself. And that actually bothered me when I was a kid. I hated it. I didn't hate that the abominable snowman was going to kill all of the people, including Rudolph and Clarice. It bothered me that they pulled his teeth out. It just creepy.
Yeah, they didn't give him any painkiller either.
So all of this would be excusable, man, if we had some sort of acceptable moral at the end of the story. Like, hey, Santa, elves, maybe you shouldn't have been judging people just because they're mildly different than you. No. The moral to the story is, hey, we still think you're a freak, but we have found some mild usefulness to your freakishness.
Yeah.
So we welcome you back with open arms. No apologies.
No.
Rudolph with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Hey, up yours, Santa.
Yes, Santa.
It's so good.
Isn't that what he said?
That's exactly what he said.
Well, no, he sounded like he had to stop that. Yes, Santa.
That's perfect. Meanwhile, Yukon's outside doing the peppermint thing, and the toothless, abominable snow monster is now responsible for putting the tops of the trees on the Christmas tree.
Very good, abominable.
God, this is creeping me out. So Santa issues some half-hearted, I'm so sorry for your trouble, but now that I can use you, why don't you guide my sleigh tonight? So it's not until he realizes that he can get some use out of Rudolph that he decides that he's going to treat him a little bit differently. I hope that you watch Rudolph with a little different eyesight tonight as we celebrate the 60th anniversary of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
60 years.
True, boy, oh boy. Back in a moment. Hello, friends. Did you know that 90% of men in prison will eventually be getting out of prison? That's a statistic that's important to understand when you understand what type of men we truly want coming out of our prison systems. Men of Valor is a wonderful, worthwhile organization that promises to disciple men in the proper way and bring them to lives of God. They need volunteers to help them in this. Because of the power of God and because of the power of God's people, they have a recidivism rate that is wildly lower than the normal rate. About 50%, sadly, of the men that get out of prison will return within 3 years unless they are discipled and given hope and a future. And that's what Men of Valor does. And they turn that rate into just over 10% in the teens. It's an incredible return on investment. Can you give? Will you give today? Donations being accepted at movministry.com, movministry.com. If you're looking to volunteer somewhere, what about a job partner, Bible study teacher, or a mentor to disciple these men in their everyday lives on their aftercare reentry campus or in the prison system itself? movministry.com for the wonderful organization that is Men of Valor.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Another clue in the search for the CEO murder suspect. That story and more at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ken Weaver, your impersonations are getting high marks on the super text line, my friend.
Think I miss my calling?
Oh, man, that's good stuff. That's absolutely fine stuff.
I don't want to make toys, Santa. I want to be a dentist.
It is really good.
It's really solid.
I used to love that part.
We make toys that walk and talk and chew bubble gum.
Hermie.
You can do him, too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Ken had a lot of Rudolph in his life.
I've just been, by hearing all these quotes that Ken keeps spitting out, I've realized maybe I haven't seen this thing all the way through. I've definitely seen pieces of it.
Oh, it's like an hour long. It just keeps going.
You got to see when they all pile into the same bed and go to sleep in this little bitty room.
Oh, yeah.
And Yukon Cornelius, his head's hitting the ceiling.
Not Hermes.
That's right. Well, they're at the Island of Misfit Toys, and it gets really trippy. Like somebody's doing LSD at that point because you got a flying lion.
Well, it was the '60s,
Yeah, that's true. It was, and then so he says you can stay here tonight, but then you got to leave, and so they put him in a little cabin.
Yeah, then they got to leave,
and then Rudolph decides to get out of there because he thinks he's the problem.
Right.
Well, it's like 0 degrees outside. Rudolph leaves the cabin. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed it, and just leaves the door hanging wide open. Hey, Rudolph.
He does.
Hey, bud. How about pull the door to there, Pally?
Yeah.
A little cold outside. Nothing. I don't know. It's bad news. Whole thing's bad news. 615-737-9986. If you want to enjoy the frivolity, you may do so by giving us a call or hitting us up on the super text line. The possibility of a TikTok ban in the United States of America continues. I'm going to get to that story coming up in just a moment. And Democrats are now actually arguing. This is comedy, too. I love the concept of the Department of Government Efficiency for any number of reasons. One, it is a huge issue that we are allowing ourselves to bury our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren under millions and millions and millions and billions of dollars of debt. What the Department of Government Efficiency is charged with the task of doing is trying to find a way to make government more efficient and work better and waste less money. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are going to do that. And I have full faith that they're going to bring a full reporting back to the president of the United States. And now they're not creating a new department. They're calling it the Department of Government Efficiency, but it would be counterintuitive to create a new department of government to make government more efficient, right? Which is why they're creating this task force, if you will, exterior to the actual government. But the best part of the Department of Government Efficiency is how it has liberals and the leftist in the mainstream media on their heels to the point that they are actually arguing that government is not that inefficient. To which most people are like, y'all don't understand why y'all just lost this election? Can you not hear yourself right now? We have millions of dollars going to the study of whether or not shrimp are effective runners on treadmills and stuff. I mean, I'll go through some of the amount of money, your tax dollars, my tax dollars, and our children's and grandchildren's tax dollars that goes into some of these ridiculous programs. It's unbelievable. And I'll play you a couple of clips from political leftists who are arguing, oh, no, they're not going to be able to do this. This is just silly. We'll do that next, right after the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
6:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, full forecast, and traffic in 5 minutes. CEO shooting update. New York City police think the suspect is no longer in the city. They think he got on a bus out of town after the shooting. The late word is that investigators have located his backpack. It was near a merry-go-round in Central Park. The judge in the Daniel Penny case has tossed the manslaughter charge in that chokehold death of a mentally ill homeless man threatening people on a subway, but prosecutors still want to try to get the Marine veteran on negligent homicide, which carries a 4-year prison sentence. Right now in Nashville, Metro Police say the second twin has been arrested for the murder of Antioch restaurant owner Harong Ju on November 24th. 17-year-old Emilio Leyva Hernandez was the passenger in a vehicle stopped by detectives on Hamilton Church Road last night, taken into custody without incident. His brother Marcos was arrested in the case on Thanksgiving night. Money news, here's Michelle Franzen.
A mixed day for markets. The Dow Jones losing 123 points and boosted by a higher than expected report of 227,000 jobs created in the month of November. The Nasdaq finishing off the day with a gain of 159 points. The S&P ending the week adding 15 points. In order to fulfill their promise to increase portion sizes and offset inflation, Chipotle leadership announcing they will implement a 2% price increase. The U.S. Department of Agriculture issued a new federal order requiring national testing for raw milk samples to test for bird flu. The virus was recently found in samples of raw milk from a California dairy farm. A federal appeals court upheld a law requiring China-based company ByteDance to sell the popular app TikTok or face a ban in the U.S. The judge rejecting the company's argument that a ban would violate the First Amendment rights of American users on the app.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Well, looky here. 3 crashes on 24. 2 of them are eastbound. One right after Briley Parkway South. Left shoulder is blocked. The other one is eastbound after Murfreesboro Pike at exit 52. Then in Rutherford County, we have 24 westbound right after Waldron Road. Looks like we're still working a crash on 24 eastbound in Clarksville. Also 65 northbound at Vietnam Veterans Boulevard. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and The Drive. Until 7 o'clock, we'll hand off to Mark Levin, the great one at that time. Man, oh man, I'm ready for the weekend. What do you feel good? You feel good about tomorrow?
I feel as good as I can. Yeah, I'm not too excited about it. I don't like playing in Atlanta a whole lot. I'm not a big fan of those games. And, it's just tough because we handled them pretty well one time already this season.
Hard to do that twice.
Yeah. That kind of worries me a little bit.
For you newbies in the audience, Weber and myself are both Georgia Bulldogs, so you'll indulge us this 1 minute. I promise we won't talk about it long. But, yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. It's hard to beat a team twice, and we might even have to play them 3 times.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. And then you get to see, like the Volunteers are just sitting back waiting.
Sitting at home. Yeah, they got to fix this.
Yeah.
So they promise that you're not going to be punished, that it should be a reward to be in the SEC championship game. So the likelihood of us getting booted out of the playoffs is probably non-existent.
Right.
One would think.
I would think so, yeah.
But then, I mean, if what happens when Clemson beats SMU? Are you going to punish SMU by booting them out and putting Alabama in?
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what will happen. No, you're right? I mean, and they'll say, well, the conferences are different. They'll come up with some mealy-mouthed excuse. No, I don't know. We are such a Jekyll and Hyde team.
Yeah,
we're just
100%.
such a Jekyll and Hyde team. And it feels like, I think the casual fan, and I include myself in that number, you feel like, well, it's all on Carson Beck's shoulders, but I feel like that's more about offensive line. That's some play calling issues. We're slow to start, and then if he presses, he's been a lot better the last 4 games.
He has played very well. If you just look at the raw stats, he's had 11 touchdowns or something like that,
and 1 interception, I think, in the last 4 games.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I feel cautiously optimistic, but it's an odd feeling. You want to win this, you want that bye, but it's not tragic if you don't.
Yeah, that's true.
So who do you want to play if we do play an opening round game in Athens? You don't care?
Doesn't matter.
Indiana. Dispatch of those jerks.
Give them a taste of real college football.
All right, while we're doing Santa Claus-related topics, I'm going to do this. And I didn't warn you, Weber. Sometimes I like flow. I like a little flow. We're okay with no flow, though. I don't want to do flow. But maybe later in the season, if we re-rack this, we'll put some flow behind it. Flow, you know what I mean by a little music, a little something in the background.
Yeah.
But I warn you, folks, this is one of my favorite things to do during the holiday season. But I warn you, if you have little pitchers anywhere around the radio that are very excited about the jolly old fella coming down the chimney December 24th, this is probably not the segment for you. In fact, it's not the segment for you. Ask and you shall receive. Love that. Oh, Leah, I love that. That's good. That's perfect. Okay. This is called, have you ever heard The Scientific Santa?
No, I have not.
I would like to present to you, for your edification and amusement, the physics of Santa Claus. Once again, little kids need to leave the room, or you need to turn off the radio. Fair warning. No known species of reindeer can fly, but there are 300,000 species of living organisms yet to be classified. And while most of these are insects and germs, that doesn't completely rule out flying reindeer, which only Santa Claus has seen. There are 2 billion children, persons under the age of 18 in the world, but since Santa Claus doesn't appear to handle the Muslim, Hindu, Jewish, and Buddhist children, it reduces his workload to about 15% of that total, which amounts for about 378 million children, according to Population Reference. At an average rate of 3.5 children per household, that means Santa Claus needs to get to 91.8 million homes. One presumes that there's at least one good child per house. Santa has 31 hours of Christmas to work with, thanks to the different time zones and the rotation of the Earth, assuming that he travels east to west, which would seem the most logical route. This works out to 822.6 visits per second. This is to say that for each Christian household with good children, Santa has 1/1000th of a second to park, hop out of his sleigh, jump down the chimney, fill the stockings, distribute the remaining presents under the tree, eat whatever snacks have been left, get back up the chimney, get back into the sleigh, and move on to the next house. Now, assuming that each of these 91.8 million stops are evenly distributed around the Earth, which, of course, that's false, but for the purpose of calculations, we'll accept it. We're now talking about 0.78 miles per household, a total trip of 75.5 million miles, not counting stops to do what most of us would need to do at least once over the course of 31 hours, plus feeding and all of these types of things with these reindeer. This means that Santa's sleigh necessarily has to move quite fast. As a matter of fact, Santa's sleigh moves at 650 miles per second, which is 3,000 times the speed of sound. For purposes of comparison, the fastest man-made object ever was the Ulysses space probe, which moves at a pokey 27.4 miles per second. A conventional reindeer can run tops 15 miles an hour. The payload on the sleigh adds another interesting element as we examine the physics of Santa Claus. Assuming that each child gets nothing more than a medium-sized Lego set of 2 pounds, the sleigh is carrying roughly 321,300 tons, not counting Santa, who is invariably described as morbidly obese. On land, this is very serious, don't make me laugh. On land, conventional reindeer can pull no more than 300 pounds. Even granting, let's say that flying reindeer could pull, 10 times the normal amount. We can't do the job with 8. We can't do the job with 9. We're going to need 214,200 reindeer, which increases the payload, not even counting the weight of the sleigh, to 353,430 tons. For comparison's sake, this is 4 times the weight of the Queen Elizabeth ship. 35,300 tons traveling at 650 miles an hour creates enormous air resistance. This will heat up the reindeer in the same fashion as spacecraft re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. The lead pair of reindeer will absorb roughly 14.3 quintillion joules of energy per second each. In short, they will burst into flames instantaneously, exposing the reindeer behind them, creating a deafening sonic boom in their wake. The entire reindeer team will be vaporized in 4.26 thousandths of a second. Santa, meanwhile, will be subjected to centrifugal forces that are 17,500.06 times greater than gravity. A 250-pound Santa, which seems ridiculously slim as he's always characterized as morbidly obese, will be pinned to the back of his sleigh by 4,315,015 pounds of force. In conclusion, if Santa did ever exist and presented presents on Christmas Eve, he's dead now.
Well, isn't that lovely?
That is our presentation of the physics of Santa Claus, also known as the scientific Santa.
But, Matt, you just don't understand. You just don't get it.
Oh, A Counterpoint by Chris Webber.
Magic. The end.
Dang it! I can't break through that logic.
Yeah.
It's magic, friends. The magic of the Christmas holiday season. And we'll enjoy it with you throughout the holidays on Super Talk 99.7 WTN or until they boot me off the radio. It's magic. As Matthew says, it's magic, just like transgenders. I have no idea what that means, and I don't put my stamp of approval on that super text. It's 47 minutes after the hour. Tell you what, let's take a time out, and if they allow me, we'll finish things up, wrap it up, call it a week on the drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spice and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, winding down a busy, busy week. Thank you for being with us on The Drive. Matt Murphy with you for another few moments. 6880 writes in and says, if we wanted to hear about sports, we would listen to your other station. Matt Murphy, learn your audience. Yeah, well, it was I don't think it was like 2 minutes. And then I said it was 2 minutes out of 4 hours, and I offered a little smiley face, but I got a response. Here's the response. Been a listener since 2014, all-day listener. Murphy, you can do better. Disappointed so far. Well, I've been disappointed. If you're all listening all day, I've been disappointing you for 3 years, right?
You would think so.
You would think so. God bless you, sir. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you spend some time not thinking about politics. It's important for the recharging of the batteries. Speaking of politics, Democrats I mentioned are now arguing. They're left in the position to argue that the Department of Government Efficiency either isn't going to work or it doesn't matter or there's nothing to cut. 3 arguments that don't really strike a chord with the American people, to say the least. By the way, as predicted by me, have you heard what's happening out in California with the fast food industry? You know, California passed a law requiring that fast food workers get paid a minimum of $20 an hour to work in the fast food industry. The prediction by most reasonable or common sense people was that, well, if I'm being forced to pay my employees $20 an hour, then one of a couple of things necessarily have to happen. Either I'm going to cut my employees to the point that I don't have to raise my prices. I'm going to raise my prices. And effectively, by the way, when you start doing that and you do that in a wholesale fashion, you're eliminating the increase in the wage by costing people more money as they go out to eat fast food if they choose to do so. But what has happened is what was predicted to happen. California's fast food industry shed more than 6,000 jobs after Democrat lawmakers passed a mandate for a $20 minimum wage for fast food and counter service employees and restaurants in the state. U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics show that between September 2023, when California governor signed the Assembly Bill 1228, and June of 2024, the fast food employment dropped from 570,000 roughly to 564,000, a loss of over 6,000 jobs, or a little over 1%. Predictable. Let the free market set wages. You'll be better off for it. Listen, have a great weekend, folks. Hope you enjoy some time off if you're able. If you're a weekend warrior, a EMT, firefighter, police officer, doctor, nurse, restaurateur, convenience store worker, thank you for making our weekends wonderful. We'll be back Monday at 3 o'clock for The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So long, everybody.